Okay, good evening to all of you guys. Sawadee krap, ni hao, hola, como estas? I can try to use all the different languages that are here. I think I got everybody covered, right? Where are you from, ma'am? You're from China. Okay, I say ni hao, so I say in your language too. I think I got everybody covered. Okay. All right, well, welcome to all of you guys. Oh, did I say sawadee krap? I don't think I said sawadee krap. Sawadee krap. All right, welcome to all of you guys here. Welcome to everyone online who's joining as well. This evening, what I'm going to do is I'm going to guide you in a meditation to realize non-self, because I taught that this morning, and this will be a second opportunity for you to be able to practice it. Then afterwards, I'm going to share a talk with you on the fetters of sensual desire and ill will, because remember, what I'm doing is I'm going through each of the fetters, helping you understand what it is, what the symptoms are, how to eliminate it, and how to know that you've eliminated it. In terms of the path to enlightenment and eliminating the fetters, sensual desire and ill will are two really big ones. And they often are talked about together because of sensual desire. When the mind is not getting what it wants, that's when the ill will is arising. So these are oftentimes talked about together. So I'll talk about them together with you after our meditation. So for those of you guys that were here this morning, or maybe if you tuned in online this morning, you already know how to do this meditation to realize non-self. But if you weren't here this morning, I'll just give you a little bit of a heads up of what I taught. Essentially, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be doing the chanting to ease into the meditation. Then I'm going to guide you in a short little breathing mindfulness meditation session. There will be a period of time where it's just quiet. Then I'm going to come back in with these affirmations. And when you hear these affirmations, you would like to repeat them in your mind on the out breath. Then we're going to go back to breathing mindfulness meditation. Then we're going to come out of all of that with the chanting. So this is to help you to realize non-self. And I taught this last night as part of our class. So if you'd like to join in the chanting, we have the chanting sheets over there on the cabinet. For those of you guys online, these chanting sheets are on our website at buddhadailywisdom.com. Click on free books, and then you can scroll down towards the bottom and you'll be able to see the daily chanting sheets there. So I'm going to do some chanting to ease us into meditation, and then I'll be back with guidance afterwards. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakewa Potang Mahakewanhang Apiwateyami Sawakato Mahakewata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakewato Sawakasangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakewa Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakhato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusranam Bhutto Bhagavati with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect. Just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled. Just a gradual inhale through the nose. Experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Then I'll be back with more guidance on the meditation to realize non-self. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Continuing to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Repeat these affirmations in the mind on the out breath. I am not the body. I am not the body. I am not the body. I am not the mind. I am not the mind. I am not the mind. There is no self. There is no self. There is no self. I do not exist. I do not exist. I do not exist. I am not the body. I am not the mind. There is no self. I do not exist. I am not the body. I am not the mind. There is no self. I do not exist. I am not the body. I am not the mind. There is no self. I do not exist. Now return back to breathing mindfulness meditation, focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Breathing in and out. ระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเขวาพุทธังมหาเขวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาเขวัตตาธัมโมธัมมังนัมสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเขวัตโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาเขวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดัมมาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภาควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation, what I'm going to do is see if you guys have any questions on this meditation before we move into new content, because I taught this morning and now you've had an opportunity to do it 2 times perhaps, and give you guys an opportunity to ask questions about the meditation to realize non-self. If you guys here would like to use the microphones, that would be great. And then anybody online, you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom. Or in Zoom, you can raise your hand electronically and ask any questions that way. So let me know if you guys have any questions. And by the way, ma'am, I have some cough drops here. If you would like some cough drops or medicine or anything like that, you're welcome to help yourself. Yeah. Okay, let me see if I have any questions here. No questions? I had a feeling. Kyla always has questions.
Could it not... Okay, could it hinder me to tell myself in the mirror, you are beautiful? Or
yes, because there is no you, right? And back to what we were talking about yesterday is oftentimes people think that that's building up your confidence, but really what it's doing is it's building conceit. It's not true confidence. It's building the mind's ego or arrogance. And it's because when we talk about ego, the word ego didn't exist during the lifetime of the Buddha. So when he talked about what we refer to as the ego, he talked about it as personal existence view and conceit. That's what the ego is. So if you look in the mirror and say, you are beautiful, this is reinforcing personal existence view, which is part of the ego, and it's building your conceit, which is, look at me, I'm so beautiful. Instead, I don't even suggest you look in the mirror. There's really no need, right? I went pretty much my entire life without even needing to look in the mirror. After I got out of my teens, right, and I was looking at my hair and all that stuff, I hardly ever even looked at the mirror. And I thought initially that it was because of lack of confidence, and I kind of looked at myself in a degrading way because I had negative self-talk in the mind throughout a good portion of my life. But once I got rid of all that negative self-talk and all those kinds of things, I still don't even look in the mirror. The only time I look in the mirror is like if I have something on my on this face and I need to like kind of fix it because maybe there's something wrong with the skin or the hair or something like this. No need to even look in the mirror. When we were remodeling this this classroom and we were trying to decide whether or not to put mirrors in the bathroom or not, one thought was don't even put any mirrors in the bathroom. The other thought was, well, let's put the mirror, but then let's put a sign that says, what are you looking at? There is no self. Right? Because when you look in the mirror, all you're looking at is this physical body. That's all you're looking at. You're not looking at you. You're looking at a physical body. And that's where I use mirrors, is I use them if this physical body needs help in order to address some kind of physical thing that's on the face or somewhere else. Or I use the mirror now when I cut my hair, because I started cutting my hair by myself now. And rather than leave it kind of looking all shabby, I kind of make it so that it looks presentable for other people, right? Because if I walked in with like shabby hair, I would be fine, but other people would judge me and look down on me, and then they would hinder them from choosing to learn the teachings. So I choose, this is the middle way, right? What we were talking about with Joel, it's that there's no craving and clinging that I want to look a certain way, but I'm also not on the other side where I could care less about what the hair looks like, because I know there's people in the world that need these teachings. And if I came in here with my hair all strewn around and looking all crazy, people would be like, whoa, I'm not sure if I'm interested in learning from this guy. But then there probably would be other people like, whoa, maybe I should learn from this guy, right? Because everybody has different opinions on those things. But nonetheless, for me, I choose to make sure that the hair looks a certain way, right? But I'm not craving and clinging, because if it didn't look a certain way, I'd be completely fine with that too. And I've tested that where I've gone out where my hair looked a certain way and it didn't look presentable, but I was completely comfortable going out into the world with the hair not looking that way. So, yeah, if you say those things to yourself, you're just going to reinforce the self, and that's going to boast the ego. And there's really no reason to do that. You're not looking for outside validation. You don't need to be seen as beautiful. Just go through life and take care of this body, and don't cling to it because it's going to change. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yes, ma'am. It's on. It was already on. You might have just turned it off. There you go.
All right. So this morning I just realized that when I got out of my accommodation, I forgot to put on the earrings. As I said, when I'm traveling, normally every day I will like put on an earring. Mm-hmm. So, and then I feel a little bit like discomfort, but then suddenly I realize it's kind of like self-existence view. Mm. It's like, I think I'm supposed to wear the earrings. So at that moment when I realized that it was a self-existence view, I said to myself, it's okay. It's not a big deal. Mm-hmm. You will not always bring your earrings with you. So
perfect. So
I was like, okay, it's fine.
Yeah.
And then in the afternoon when I get back to the hostel, I saw my earrings. I was thinking, should I wear it? And I said, fine, let it go. I'll just go out without wearing earrings.
Perfect.
Yes, I was thinking I was doing a great job, right?
Yeah,
it's okay.
but don't take pride in that, right? Just know with wisdom that you're headed in the right direction, and that's what you'd like to be doing. And you'd like to do more of that. You know, now you inadvertently left them at home, and you can see that you could be comfortable outside. That little uncomfortableness that you experienced, that was the attachment, that was the clinging. But you sound like you kind of let it go to a certain degree. Right. But you would like to do this multiple times so that you ensure that the mind lets it go, because it's not going to be just one time going out without the earrings and you fully let it go. It's going to be needing more than that. And then you've also got, looks like a watch there. Maybe you have a necklace. I don't know. You've got things that you put in your hair. These are all things that you would like to slowly strip away and then go an extended period of time of not using them. And then at some point, a year, 2 years down the road, you might just decide, I kind of like these things and I'm going to wear them, but I can see that my mind is completely comfortable going outside without them because you did that for a year or two. And now you just decide, okay, I'm going to start using these again. Yeah.
So it's like creating a kind of like, suffering for the mind so that it can be comfortable with any situations.
It's actually just the opposite. You're eliminating the suffering for the mind because the thing that's causing the suffering or the discontentedness is the craving and clinging. And as long as you continue to crave and cling, and if you keep going outside with the earrings, then your mind never gets a chance to experience impermanence where it can be comfortable without it. So you're putting the mind in the situation that it doesn't want to be in. And by being outside without the earrings, your mind has an opportunity to let it go. Whereas if, like, say when you realize you didn't have the earrings, if you turned around and went back to your hotel to get them and put them in, that doesn't actually solve the problem because it just allows the mind to continue to cling to this object. By you continuing to stay outside and not going back, and then even when you went back in the afternoon and you chose not to put them in, that was a choice that this mind was making to let go of these earrings and not allow the mind to continue to cling to it. So that is a choice to eliminate your suffering, not cause suffering. You're actually putting the mind in the situation. And if it has craving or clinging, it is going to become discontent or it's going to suffer, but then it has an opportunity to let it go. And that's putting your mind in the situation so that it can let it go. And you would like to do that with countless things in your life, not just earrings, but countless things. Like if there's a piece of chocolate cake, you're going to hear tonight, I'm going to teach you about the sensual desire. If there's a piece of chocolate cake that you're always showing up to this restaurant and always eating that piece of chocolate cake, you would like to get to the point where sometimes you show up and you don't eat the chocolate cake. So you're going to need to do this with many different things. Even if you have a certain brand of deodorant that you use and you just use this all the time, you're going to need to go a period of time without that. That's what we're going to be talking about tonight with sensual desire. But personal existence view is a unique type of craving, desire, attachment. It's clinging to the body and the mind. But this thing that we're going to talk about today, which is sensual desire, that's essentially the massive amount of cravings, desires, attachments. But personal existence view is still craving, desire, attachment. It's just a unique type of craving, desire, attachments. Yeah, that's good work. Good job. That's what you'd like to do. Okay. No other questions? Okay. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to move into new content for tonight. We're going to be talking about sensual desire and ill will, laying down the burden and transforming the mind. The Buddha refers to this as a burden because it's a real burden to carry around this sensual desire. Because as long as you have sensual desire, your mind's going to be pulling you in all these different directions, and the mind can't be content. And that's where the ill will arise as well. So oftentimes these two fetters are talked about together because if you're not getting your sensual desires met, that's when the ill will is going to arise. So I'm going to talk about both of these. First, explaining what it is. I'm going to explain the symptoms of it so that you can confirm that your mind has this. Then I'm going to explain how to eliminate it. And I'm going to explain how to know that you've actually eliminated it. And I'm going to take questions along the way, just like I usually do. So what sensual desire is its desire for pleasure from the 6 sense bases. The 6 sense bases are the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, the body, and then the mind itself. The mind is longing, yearning through these, wanting permanently agreeable contact. And if it gets what it wants, it gets conditioned pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. But if it doesn't get what it wants, it gets painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, dislike, resentment. These things can all come into the mind. And then there's neither painful nor pleasant feelings too, like shyness or uncomfortableness that the mind experiences. So I'm going to give you some examples on this. Let's just say with the eyes that you're walking down the street and you see a young child holding their parent's hand and you're like, oh, that's so sweet. Look at them holding the child's holding their hands. They're walking together. Oh, the parent's teaching them how to walk. That's so beautiful. Wow. And you get so excited because this is agreeable. What you're seeing through the eyes is agreeable to you. This is a physical form that you are seeing through the eyes, and the mind is seeing that as agreeable to you. And now the mind gets these conditioned pleasant feelings of happiness or excitement. But now you turn the corner and you walk down the street and you see a parent slap their kid across the face. Whack! Now, through the eyes, you're seeing a form that is disagreeable to you, and now your mind experiences painful feelings, anger, sadness, frustration, and others. We're not talking about what's wise or unwise here, because obviously it's unwise to hit anybody, including a child, especially a child. We're not talking about what's wise or unwise in terms of moral conduct. We're just talking about this central desire and how the mind is longing, yearning for permanently agreeable contact. And in this example, it's the eyes. The mind is craving permanently agreeable forms that you see through the eyes. And when you see things that are agreeable to you, you get pleasant feelings. And when you see things that are disagreeable to you, you get painful feelings. The same thing is happening through all the other sense bases. Let's take the ears. Say you're at a stoplight in a car and someone pulls up to you with a certain type of music that you really like. You're like, whoa, that's my jam. All right, let's party, right? You're all bopping around in your seat, having a good old time, right? But now you pull up to another light, and now somebody else has a different type of music. And you hear this sound, and you don't like it. And now you get frustrated and angry or irritated. It's not the person who's playing the music that's causing that. And it's not the music itself. It's the central desire that the mind is craving permanently agreeable sounds through the ears. And you live in an impermanent world. You can't have permanently agreeable sounds coming through the ears. Let's take the nose. Let's just say you're walking down the street and you pass by a flower shop and you smell these flowers. Wow. Oh my goodness. Do you smell that? That smells so good. Oh my goodness. You get so happy. Wow. But then you take a few more steps and you smell the sewer coming up from the street. Ugh. And now you're repulsed. You think, that's so horrible. Oh my gosh, I don't ever want to smell that smell again, right? That's the central desire. It's not the smells or the odors. It's not the objects. It's the mind craving permanently agreeable smells and odors. When you live in an impermanent world, you're not going to have that, right? Then we've got the tongue. The mind will crave and long and yearn with its central desire for permanently agreeable flavors to touch the tongue. So now maybe you go somewhere and you have a certain type of food. Maybe you eat a piece of chocolate cake and it's sweet and it's like, oh my goodness, that is so delicious, right? But now maybe you're at your friend's house and they're serving some dish and you don't even know what it is. You just decide to eat it. And maybe it's some other flavor that you don't like. Maybe it's sour or bitter or something else. And you taste it and you're like, whoa, oh my goodness. Oh, that's horrible. I need to go to the bathroom and spit that out. I don't ever want to taste that ever again. Because that's what the mind's going to do, is it's going to push this away. Right? It thinks that that's going to solve the problem. That's called aversion, when you're trying to push something away. So the mind is trying to get permanently agreeable flavors through the tongue, and you live in an impermanent world. You're not going to be able to experience permanently agreeable flavors. It's just not possible. Then there's the body itself. The mind can be longing, yearning through the body. Like maybe there's a certain fabric that you wear and it feels really good on the skin, or a certain blanket that you put on the body and you feel really good when this is on the body, right? And now you get all these happy feelings, conditioned happy feelings based on this agreeable contact that you're having through the body. But now let's just say you're walking down the street and you're walking and somebody bumps into this body. Boom. Whoa, man, what are you doing? Hey, right? Maybe now you're upset. You're frustrated because that was disagreeable to you, right? Because the body is experiencing this contact. The mind has this central desire where it's longing, yearning for permanently agreeable contact through the body. And now it sees this bumping into you as disagreeable, and now it gets frustrated and agitated, right? And then there's the mind itself. This is the sixth sense base. What the mind is doing is it can be looking at something in the past that was either pleasurable or painful, and it can be experiencing either pleasurable or painful feelings in the present moment based on something that happened in the past. Some people might call this trauma, right? This isn't permanent. All that is the mind is clinging to an experience that happened in the past. So let's just say you were really rich and wealthy in the past, and you were able to afford all kinds of food and clothing, and you're able to go out and do everything that you like. You're able to buy all these nice cars and all this kind of stuff. And now let's just say in the present moment, 3 years later, you don't have money anymore. Something happened with the economy, with the stock market. You're having very little money. And now maybe you don't even have a car anymore. Maybe you had to sell everything. In the present moment, you're thinking back to that situation where you had that very pleasurable thing happen. And now maybe in the present moment, you're experiencing pleasant feelings, thinking about, oh, that was so great when I had all those things in the past. Wow, that was so great. And now in the present moment, you're having a conditioned pleasant feeling based on something that happened in the past. But you can also experience something painful in the past. Maybe you were sexually abused or physically abused or something like this. And now in the present moment, you're thinking about those situations, and now you're having painful feelings in the present moment based on something that occurred in the past. This is the mind clinging to something from the past, and now that was very painful for you to experience, and in the present moment, you're experiencing painful feelings. This is the mind's central desire. And this can also be happening for the future. You could be longing, yearning, say, to go on a trip to Australia. And you're so excited about that trip. Maybe it's coming up in 3 months and you're getting so excited. And it even hasn't even happened yet. But because it's in the future and you're getting all excited about it, in the present moment, you're getting excitement because of this condition of I'm going to Australia. So now 3 months in advance of the trip, you're already having pleasant feelings. Conditional pleasant feelings. But then also there can be painful feelings when your mind's thinking about something in the future. Maybe you have a certain presentation that you need to do at a company, or maybe you're going for a job interview in like a week or two or something like this, and now your mind's thinking about that situation, that you're going to be in front of all these people, and now maybe you're scared or fearful. Just thinking about being in front of other people and being interviewed at this job, your mind is already experiencing conditioned feelings in the present moment, that it can't be peaceful and joyful in the present moment because it's thinking about this thing in the future and forming feelings based on this thing that's going to happen in the future. This is all coming from central desire. This is what central desire is, where the mind is longing, yearning through the sense spaces. The mind is craving, wanting, desiring permanent satisfaction and permanent comfort. But yet the mind lives in an impermanent world. It doesn't understand that it's not possible for you to have permanently agreeable contact. But the mind keeps doing it because of its lack of wisdom. It keeps longing, yearning through these sense spaces, chasing after the objects of its affection. In fact, what this central desire oftentimes does is, because of the lack of wisdom, when you're experiencing painful feelings, which the painful feelings are coming because of the central desire. When the mind lacks wisdom and it's in the painful feelings, the mind wants to get back to something that feels somewhat comfortable. And because it lacks wisdom, what it will tend to do is crave something. So let's say, for example, somebody comes home from a hard day at work and their expectations weren't getting met. Their central desire wasn't getting met. And now they're angry and frustrated and irritated at home. Then now what they'll do is they'll turn to alcohol or drugs, or they'll turn to sex or gambling or shopping or food or something like this. They're trying to get back to something that feels somewhat comfortable, but they're using central desire to do it. They're trying to get back to something that feels somewhat comfortable. They're trying to get to pleasant feelings, but they're conditional. As long as you keep relying on craving, desire, attachment, central desire to get back to something pleasurable, well, if your mind's going back to those conditioned pleasant feelings, as soon as that condition isn't met anymore, you're going to end up right back in the painful feelings. This is the cycle that the mind has. So if you're in painful feelings because you had an argument at work with your boss and you use ice cream to get you back to pleasant feelings, well, now when you go to work and you have another bad conversation and you end up back in the painful feelings, now you go back to the pleasant feelings with ice cream or sex. But then when you come home, well, another bad day of work, and you had an argument with your boss and there's no ice cream and there's no sex, maybe your partner's not around, now you have even more painful feelings. It's not just because the painful feelings are there because your cravings not getting fulfilled with your boss. Now your cravings not getting fulfilled because there's no ice cream and there's no sex. And now the painful feelings are even stronger because you were using craving to get back to something somewhat comfortable. So this cycle just keeps continuing. So when you're in painful feelings, the last thing you're interested to do is use craving to get to pleasant feelings, because it's just going to keep the cycle going, right? You need to be able to understand that the mind is longing, yearning to be permanently fulfilled and to never experience discomfort. It's longing, yearning for that. When you're in the painful feelings, the way to solve that is to get rid of the sensual desire, to get rid of whatever it's longing, yearning for. So if the mind is longing, yearning for ice cream, the way to solve that is not to have more ice cream. The way to solve that is to train your mind to let this go and not long and yearn for it, right? You can get to a point where you'll be able to enjoy ice cream, but you're not longing, yearning for it. Whereas if you have it, great, you enjoy it. But if you don't have it, you're okay. We all did that growing up as a child. As a child, we had sensual desire. We wanted ice cream really bad. And when we got it, we were happy. And when we didn't get it, we were sad or frustrated. But then as we aged, we got to a point where we're like, you know what? If we have ice cream, great. And if we don't, that's fine too. And you were completely comfortable. You had let that go. But as a child, you had a craving for ice cream perhaps, or chocolate. But over time, you were able to train your mind to let that go. And now you can have it, you can not have it. You're fine either way. And that's what you would like to be able to do with all these sensual desires, is learning how to enjoy something without longing, yearning, and craving for it. Because if you long and yearn and crave for it, you'll be happy when you get it. You'll get pleasant feelings. But when you don't get it, your mind's going to have the painful feelings of anger, sadness, and frustration, because the mind's craving that permanence of this object. And it can't ever get that object permanently. It's not possible. So the mind thinks that something's going to provide lasting satisfaction. So it chases and chases and chases. It longs and yearns through these sense bases. The Buddha refers to these as doorways to discontentedness, because anytime you become discontent, it's always coming through one of these doorways. You can look at every situation where you've ever been discontent, and it's from some contact through the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the body, or the mind itself. Right? So we can take these examples that I gave you, and you can see that it's through contact that is experiencing that. Without that contact, you wouldn't experience the discontentedness. It's the underlying craving, desire, attachment that's in the mind, the central desire, that now when it experiences the contact, it sees that as either agreeable or disagreeable. And if it's agreeable to you, you'll get the pleasant feelings. If it's disagreeable, you'll get the painful ones. And you would ultimately like to get to the point where this contact that you're having, that you don't see it as agreeable or disagreeable. It's just contact. And it's impermanent. And there's no need to cling to it. And there's no need to long and yearn for it. It's just contact. That's all it is. Some people are going to talk to you polite, kind, friendly, and respectful. And then other people are going to talk to you in a way that's disrespectful and unkind and unfriendly. That's the impermanent nature of the world. But if you crave to hear words from other people that are polite, kind, friendly, and respectful, you'll get happy when people talk to you that way. But when they don't talk to you that way, you'll be angry and frustrated. And while that other person is surely doing something unwise, that's not what's causing your discontentedness. What's causing your discontentedness is the central desire, the mind longing, yearning for permanently agreeable contact when you live in an impermanent world. You guys understand what I'm talking about here? Any questions? No questions? You have a question? Yes, ma'am. If you could get a microphone, that way the people online will be able to hear you.
Yep. I'm just thinking, have you thought about Schadenfreude?
Thought about what?
Schadenfreude.
I'm not understanding.
This pleasure of seeing other people suffer mildly.
The pleasure of seeing other people suffer?
Mildly. You know, like watching cats videos when the cat makes like stupid mistakes. Mm-hmm. Schadenfreude.
I'm not familiar with that term that you're saying, but I understand.
I'm not sure if I'm saying it right because it's German. I don't really speak German.
Yeah, I don't speak German either. Yeah. But I understand what you're saying about taking pleasure in seeing someone else suffer. That would also
but not
be,
like a like suffer a lot. It's more like, like people watching stupid baby videos or like cat dog videos when they fall over.
This would be sensual desire as well. Because what somebody finds to be agreeable to them is seeing someone else suffer, and that's now agreeable to them, and that's also where the ill will is as well. Still the same pollution.
Sorry, but they also think it's cute.
Yeah, that's the sensual desire. That's what you're looking to eliminate, where you don't see things as agreeable or disagreeable, that is just contact, and that you're not experiencing conditioned feelings. If you allow the mind to get the conditioned pleasant feelings, it's only a matter of time before you get the painful ones. So if somebody got so excited with that piece of chocolate cake when they go to the restaurant, now when they go to the restaurant and the restaurant doesn't have that chocolate cake because maybe they're all out of it, they sold out, that's where the painful feelings will come in. So what the Buddha is teaching you here is to eliminate sensual desire, where your mind's seeing things as agreeable or disagreeable, and you're forming feelings based on your contact with these objects. Instead, you can just get to the point where you have unconditioned happiness. Whereas if I go to the restaurant and they have the piece of chocolate cake, great, I'll eat the piece of chocolate cake. But if they don't have it, hey, I'm fine too. I don't need any dessert. I can just eat this mushroom burger and I'll be fine. Right? So you can be fine either way. But if you have a craving for that piece of chocolate cake, you can only be happy if they have your chocolate cake. That's where your mind's bound up and it's going to keep experiencing discontentedness. But to get free and get liberated, you get rid of your sensual desire with each one of these situations, and now you can be free. So if somebody has a craving to see other people suffer, they're going to need to train their mind, if they would like, to be able to be peaceful and joyful, whether they see those things or not.
Thanks.
Yep.
Okay, so my problem is, like, for different people, they have different sensual desire, right? It's like, for example, for A, he prefers chocolate cake. For B, he prefers to eat like bitter cakes. So the sensual desire is different, vary from person to person. That is also part of the impermanent world.
Exactly. And that's why your practice is all about you. Right? This practice to get to enlightenment isn't about looking at other people and judging other people, looking down on them or anything like that. It's about you knowing your own mind and what are your sensual desires, and now training your mind to eliminate those. If other people have sensual desire, that's on them, and they're responsible to let that go. That's where you can see that it's not you causing their discontentedness, and this can be freeing by itself. Because I remember growing up as a kid, I was constantly blamed for my parents' anger, right? And I always knew, even as a kid, I didn't know 100% the wisdom, but I knew I'm not causing their anger. I didn't do that, right? But they didn't understand it, and they constantly blamed me for it. And then that's where you feel like less and less of a person. But when you get this wisdom to understand that everybody's causing their own anger, now you don't feel guilty and shameful when someone's blaming you for their anger, because you know the truth, and you know that you're not causing that person's anger whatsoever. So each individual person is going to have different sensual desires, and they're going to get triggered, and they're going to, with their lack of wisdom, blame it on you. And that's where you can know the truth, that you're not causing this person's anger whatsoever.
When choosing a partner, would it not be wise to have preferences or on the physical aspect, I'm saying? Or you can have preference but not choose based on it?
So when you get rid of your craving, desire, attachment, your wants and expectations, you can be completely peaceful and joyful no matter what's going on, right? But you will have preferences, right? So if I went to a restaurant and I know they have really good chocolate cake, and I might be interested to order this chocolate cake. And if I order the chocolate cake, great, I'll enjoy it, right? And if they don't have the chocolate cake, I'm fine with that too, and I'll just eat my food and just move on, no big deal. But if I went to this restaurant and they have the chocolate cake and they have a sour lemon tart, I'm going to pick the chocolate cake, right? Because that's what this body prefers. I like the flavor of chocolate cake. I can also eat the lemon sour tart because I've done that many times, and I'm not discontent with that. But if I had a choice to make, I would choose the chocolate cake. But my mind can be content and peaceful with the chocolate cake, with the sour tart, or no dessert even whatsoever. There's complete contentedness and peacefulness in the mind. So it's the same thing when it comes to a life partner. That's what you're talking about, right? If you're choosing a life partner, you would like to get to the point where you are making wise choices about who to involve in your life. And you're not angry and bitter and hostile and harsh towards people. You're not judging them or looking down on them, but you're making wise choices based on what you know about the natural laws. Because if you had a life partner who was let's just use the 5 precepts: killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, and intoxicants, you know that that's going to cause harm in their life. They're going to have all kinds of unwholesome karma as a result of that. And if you choose to be their friend or their life partner, your choice to be their life partner is now going to affect you. That's the choice you're making, that you've made the unwise choice to include someone in your life who's killing, stealing, having sexual misconduct, lying, and taking substances that cause heedlessness. So this is where the more you understand the natural law of karma, you'll make wiser and wiser choices about who to involve in your life as a life partner, but you'll do it through wisdom, not through conceit and judgment and looking down on them. So if you went out like on a first date with somebody or second or third date, and they started talking and saying how, yeah, I've had sex with all these people and I would like to have an open relationship and I'd like to have 3 or 4 or 5 partners. Will you be one of my partners? Blah, 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 blah. You know, through the natural law of karma, I'm not interested in that. I would like to have just one partner. But you're not judging that person and looking down on them for the fact that they're interested in having multiple partners. You just understand that that's their choice, and that's not a choice that you're interested in. And now you just choose to move on, and you're not going to date this person any longer. But you're making a wise choice based on the natural law rather than judgment or looking down on this person. And even if you see this person a week later outside, you're like, hey, buddy, how's it going? How you doing? You're completely friendly and peaceful with them. You're not thinking of them in a negative way or degrading way. It's just that for your life, you know what's wise, and you're going to choose to walk towards that instead of involving yourself in this type of decision making. Mm-hmm. Yep.
I have a question. So, let's say if I'm doing a job and I didn't fulfill my job, I made a mistake and it irritates the boss or someone who is related to that thing. So is it still their responsibility to become like peaceful towards that mistake, or like I should be responsible for that?
No, you can't make someone else peaceful. It's their responsibility for their own contentedness.
But if it is like me causing the trouble or making the mistake,
you can't cause somebody else to experience anger or frustration. So if you've made a mistake in your work and your boss gets angry about it, that means your boss is craving for you to be permanently, doing things 100% correct. And that's just not possible. If you're a boss and you have employees, they're going to make mistakes. That's the universal truth of impermanence. But if the boss is craving permanence, which every unenlightened mind is, when their employee makes a mistake, they'll be angry and frustrated. But you need to be sure that you understand that you're not causing their anger and frustration. They don't realize that. So that's why they're going to either push you away, they're going to be bitter, harsh, and hostile to you through your intention, speech, and actions, or they're going to start trying to put their expectations on you and trying to control you and force you to do it their way. Where you understanding all of this, it would be wise for you to say, oh, I'm so sorry for making this mistake. I apologize. I will fix this. Just give me 3 hours and I can have it fixed and I'll bring it back to you, right? And that's a wise thing to say. In your mind can remain calm if you understand they're causing their own anger. You're not responsible for their anger, but you did make this mistake. So now let me go fix it. But that doesn't solve their problem, because the very next time that you make a mistake, they're going to get angry again because they still have a craving. So fixing the mistake doesn't fix their anger. all that's happening is they're getting their craving fulfilled now. So now they're not angry anymore because they're getting what they want. So in this situation, if you can understand true reality that everybody's causing their own discontentedness, you can remain calm and be like, oh, I'm so sorry. I apologize, boss. I made a mistake here. Let me go fix this. I'll be right back. Just give me 3 hours. But you know that you're not causing their anger. So you're not apologizing for their anger, right? Because if you apologize for people's anger, more and more people are going to be blaming you for their anger. So if you say, I'm sorry I made you angry, now you're just reinforcing what's called wrong view. Wrong view is where people blame others for the feelings that they experience. And you need to get to the point where you see that everybody is causing their own feelings, that it's not you that's causing them. So I would never, ever, ever, ever apologize for someone else's feelings, for what they're experiencing. You can apologize for your mistake, that you made the mistake, but that's very different than apologizing for the anger.
Okay, thank you.
That's good.
I just wondering, just as you mentioned, for like a relationship, as the person who would like to have some open relationship, or we just deal with some friends, they're not so nice to you, or so. When we meet these problems, we should just leave them away, like eliminate, or how to deal with it, or just get on well with them, just to keep going on to keep the normal relationship, just as or keep some distance.
Okay, so I'll answer your question, but I just like to let you guys know that we're outside of what I was planning to talk about today, but that's okay. We can talk about these kinds of things. But eventually I'm going to bring you guys back to central desire and eliminating central desire. So if you're in a relationship with someone who has sex outside the relationship, they're showing you that they're not loyal, they're not committed to the relationship, and they're having craving, desire, attachment. They're longing, yearning for sexual contact outside of your relationship. And when they do this, you're more susceptible to sexually transmitted diseases. This is part of the unwholesome karma that you'll experience. You could even get beat up and murdered because these other people can find out about you and get jealous, and now they might try to attack you physically. You can have your material possessions destroyed. You can lose your reputation in the community. This is all the unwholesome results of having a partner and choosing to have this partner that's choosing to go outside and have a relationship with other people. My advice to somebody who's in that situation would be to move on from the relationship. That's usually best. But if it's kind of like a one-time thing that this person like kind of slipped up and did this one-time kind of thing, and you can sit down and you can talk and you guys can come to make amends and you guys can move beyond this, and this person is very committed to eliminating this craving to go have sex with other people, and they're really committed to you, you guys could potentially repair this because it's possible. There's an ability to have what we call unfaithfulness in a relationship, and then those two people sort this out and put it behind them and move on. It's really challenging, and both people need to be able to train their mind. Because if they're not training their mind, the craving is still going to stay in the mind. But oftentimes, one of the best things to do is just move on from the relationship. But you need to be able to look at the relationship and how long have you been together? Was this a one-time thing, or is this person doing this regularly? Are they lying about it? Are they not taking responsibility for it? Are they willing to get help for this and train their mind to eliminate the craving? So there's all these different variables involved that you need to look at and decide what would be best in that situation. So there's no kind of like 100% right answer or 100% wrong answer. It's not like if someone cheats on you, absolutely leave the relationship. That would be a permanent answer in every situation. So you need to look at all these variables and decide for yourself, does it make sense for you to continue in this relationship? How much history do you guys have? Is the person taking responsibility for it? Are they sorrowful that they did this? Are they now trying to get help? All these kinds of things you're going to need to look at. Could you use it's on? It's on.
Okay, so I want to be someone like you, to be very peaceful, to get on well with other, just because some people, even they don't have relationship, but they still have something connected with them. For example, the business, or they are very good friends, girlfriends, and they need to travel together, do some things together, hang out together. So I just I can just keep going on to get well with them peacefully. Right.
So are you in a relationship now with a boyfriend or girlfriend?
No.
No. Okay. Are you planning to have a life partner at some point, or you're not planning to do it, or you don't know? You don't know. Okay. So I will share this with you. Okay. I'm completely content with the fact that I have a wife and I have a son, and I'm very pleased that I made those decisions in my life, and those were part of the decisions I need to make in order to extinguish the craving that I once had. Because I once had a craving to have a wife, and I once had a craving to have a child. So I needed to do those things in order to extinguish it. So I'm very pleased with what I have right now. And my life is completely peaceful, completely joyful. I don't ever experience any discontentedness. But if I would have understood these teachings when I was single, I would have never chosen to have a partner or children, because these are going to produce attachments in your mind, and you're going to need to get rid of them. You're going to need to eliminate them. Sometimes one of the ways to eliminate it is to actually do it. So that's what I ended up doing without realizing it, is I got a partner, and that extinguished my craving for it. I had a child, so it extinguished my craving for it. And now I'm completely peaceful with the life that I have and completely content with it. But if I understood in my 20s what I understand now, I would have never went forward with having a relationship or having children, because it's much easier to get to enlightenment without those things in some cases. But if you have a craving for it, if you're longing, yearning for it, one of the ways to actually get rid of it is to fulfill it, is to actually do it. So for some people, that's going to be a better way for them to eliminate it. So you need to be able to look at your life and decide, if you got all the way to the end of this life and you never had a life partner, and you never had children, how would you feel? And if you were on your deathbed thinking, oh man, I wish I would have done that, then you would be wise to go ahead and get a life partner. And if you're going to have children, I'm not sure, but if you were going to have children, have children. But if you can get to the point where you're like, you know what? If I get to the end of this life and I never had a life partner and I never had children, I'd be completely fine with that. Then there's no need for you to go out and do that, because society is going to kind of help you to form the expectation of yourself that somehow you should have a life partner or somehow you should have children. But this isn't required. This is the minds of maybe parents or siblings or friends having an expectation that you might have a partner, but you don't have to. You can live a very productive, very successful, very wonderful life as a single person. But if you do choose to have a partner, there's going to be attachment, right? And if you do choose to have children, there is going to be an attachment, but you can train your mind to let that go. It's just going to delay the amount of time it's going to take you to get to enlightenment by choosing to do that. Make sense? Okay. Joel has a question. Is this on central desire, Joel, or is it all of this stuff? Okay.
One.
And all of this is central desire, actually.
Yeah, using the senses. The eyes. Yeah. Would the use of sexual toys be something... I mean, of course, if you're craving it, if you cannot live with it, or replacing, but let's say, would that be something? Yeah, you would using sexual toys be
Sensual desire.
polluting. Yeah, well, polluting or cause
So anything with sex is sensual desire. That's the mind longing, yearning, because the mind is wanting pleasure of the body. And typically even the eyes, ears, nose, tongue is involved too, right? All 6 sense bases are involved when you're having sex. That's why it's so pleasurable. That's why you get to this heightened state of orgasm and an individual has an orgasm, right? That is sensual desire. By the time you get rid of this, what you'll hear is that you won't be having sex at all. If somebody would like to use sexual toys during their sexual encounters, up to them. That's part of the things that we have available to us today. If somebody was working to get rid of their sexual craving and that's what they're interested in doing, you can slowly diminish your sexual craving, and there's ways to do that. Plenty of training that the mind can choose to do. But the way that these cravings work is, let's just say that you are always interested in using sexual toys and you never use them. What you might decide to do is just go ahead and use them, train your mind that you've been there, done that, and now you don't have that craving anymore. But it's not like it's right or wrong. It's just one more thing, one more object that the mind is using in order to pleasure the body. And ultimately, by the time you get rid of sensual desire, you won't have any of that stuff. You won't have sex. You won't be having sex at all. So while me and my wife are still together in our relationship, and we will be for the rest of this life, we don't have sex any longer. And our relationship is better now than it ever was when we were having sex. Essentially what you get to when you have a life partner and you guys are together, and then you ultimately eliminate your cravings and desires, you ultimately end up becoming best friends. You basically are best friends, that you've been through so many situations together. You've been loyal and committed for all this time. And now both of you being on the path, you've let go of your sensual desire and you're no longer having sex, but you just enjoy spending time together and living together. And now you're doing that in a partnership. That's a true partnership, that you don't want anything from this person. You don't expect anything from this person, including sex. And you just enjoy spending time with this person. And that's what a life partnership becomes, is where you guys are just best friends. That's it. Mm-hmm. And whether you use sexual toys or not, it's a choice for you to make. It's not right or wrong, but it is part of sensual desire. Mm-hmm. Done? Or you have more? Okay. All right. So now let me explain the symptoms of sensual desire. Because of this agreeable and disagreeable, this favor and opposing that the mind has through the sense bases, in some cases it's going to get what it wants, which is those any particular craving, any particular object. Since we're talking about sex and life partners, if the mind's getting sex, wow, it's going to be really happy, really excited. Wow, it feels so great. But then if you're not getting your sensual desire fulfilled, you're going to be angry, frustrated, or irritated. Even when you're having sex, if the sex doesn't meet your level of satisfaction, you'll be irritated, right? Because you're not getting what you want, right? So these discontent feelings are the symptom of sensual desire. But you're going to experience conditional pleasant feelings, painful feelings, or neither painful nor pleasant, based on some condition. If you're having sex, you're happy. If you're not, then you're irritated or annoyed. If you're getting that chocolate cake, you're happy. And if you're not, you're getting irritated or annoyed. If you're hearing certain music that you like, you're really happy and excited. But if you hear some other music, you're frustrated or agitated or annoyed. That's the biggest symptom of sensual desire. Some other things you're going to see is you're going to see people have addictions, or you might have addictions. Addictions, not just to substances like cocaine, heroin, things like this, but an individual can be addicted to scrolling on Facebook. An individual can be addicted to YouTube videos, video games, things like this. You can be addicted to any number of things. You can be addicted to shopping. What's that? To work? Yeah, you can be addicted to that. You can be addicted to money. Right? You can be addicted to many different things. There can be significant debt because that craving, desire, attachment, the mind is longing externally for material objects. So it can run itself into significant amounts of debt because it just keeps buying things, thinking that these are going to lead to satisfaction. So maybe it keeps buying the latest iPhone every time the new iPhone comes out. Or maybe it's buying the latest jewelry or shoes or clothing or going on vacations and trips. The mind is just looking external for some satisfaction, so it can can run itself into significant amount of debt. Because of the central desire, there can be lack of focus and concentration, memory, and clarity of mind. The Buddha calls this muddle-mindedness, because what the central desire is doing is it's pulling you in all these different directions. So the mind can't be content and peaceful in the present moment because it always wants something that it doesn't have. So the mind is pulling in all these different directions, so it lacks focus and concentration and clarity because it's not in the present moment. It's just thinking about the next thing. It's like the grass is always greener on the other side. So instead of being content here on this lawn, the mind is always thinking about, how can I get over that fence? I need to get over that fence and get to that other grass. So the mind is always being pulled in a certain direction. So it'll lack focus and concentration, clarity, and deep memory. The Buddha refers to this as muddle-mindedness. There can be exhaustion or tiredness, because if you go outside in a given day and your cravings, your central desires are getting fulfilled, you'll be happy. You'll be like, wow, this is the best day ever, because all your cravings, your central desires getting fulfilled. But if you go outside and your central desires aren't getting fulfilled, you'll be exhausted and tired. You'll come home from a day at work and you'll be completely exhausted, feeling like you're carrying bricks on your feet or bricks on your shoulders because you weren't getting what you wanted. And in so many situations, you weren't getting what you wanted, and these painful feelings were coming into the mind, and now you feel completely wiped out and exhausted. So you'll notice that when there's central desire. You'll notice that there's difficulty sleeping or headaches, right? Because when you're sleeping, your mind's going to be ruminating with the central desire. It's going to almost be obsessively thinking about all the different things in your day and in your world. And this will produce headaches too. This is where people experience these kinds of things. You'll experience never being fully satisfied. They'll feel like there's always something missing in your life. Like there's always something that you don't have, that you want. You're going to feel like you're missing something. You're never fully satisfied. There can be hostility, aggression, arguments, broken relationships, and lack of happiness because the mind's central desires aren't getting fulfilled. So that's when the aggression and the hostility and the bitterness and the arguments and broken relationships come in, because when your central desires are getting fulfilled, you're happy, but when they're not, that's when the painful feelings are coming in and the ill will is arising. That's where you become unskillful, and now you become bitter and harsh and hostile and argumentative. And now when you're putting that out, people don't like that. And now people choose to go away from you and they end your relationship. So this is coming from central desire and the ill will. So these are some of the symptoms that an individual will experience as part of central desire. Now, in terms of solving this, the way to solve it is learn and practice the Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path is the complete, perfect plan to eliminate your central desire. All your craving, desire, attachment, the longing, the yearning, the chasing after the objects of your affection. That's what's going to solve it. But specifically, what's really targeting it is breathing mindfulness meditation, because when you're focused on the breath and the mind moves off the breath, you're training your mind to let go. Because with central desire, you'll hold on to things really tight, right? Like those earrings, we'll hold on to them really tight. But when you train with breathing mindfulness meditation, you can let it go. You'd be like, no, that's okay. I don't need to wear those earrings today. I'll be completely fine, right? But when you haven't trained your mind doesn't know how to let go. So that's why you'd like to consistently be training with the breathing mindfulness meditation every day, because then when you're in a situation where you need to let go, your mind will be willing to do that, and it'll be capable of doing that. Then there's the generosity. Generosity is giving and sharing without any expectation of anything in return. That's going to help you to train your mind to let go. So if you know that you're attached to jewelry, you would maybe like to share it with other people, give it away, right? This is going to train your mind to let it go. Or if you notice you're attached to money, you would like to share it with other people. Drop some money in some donation boxes, or buy some food for somebody and give it to them, or something like this. You'd like to use your money in other situations that doesn't benefit you. So when you're practicing generosity, you're sharing your time, effort, energy, and resources, more than is strictly required, without any expectation of anything in return. And where you see your discontentedness coming up, that's those things that you would like to be generous with. So say you take your clothes out of the washing machine and you see they're ripped, and you're like, oh, my clothes are ripped. That's the discontentedness because the mind's craving permanence here. So now start giving away some of your clothes, right? This is going to help your mind to let go. Or if you're noticing that when your bank account balance is up here, you're happy. When it goes down here, you're frustrated. Start sharing your money with other people. Start giving it, not extensively. You need to even practice this from the middle way. If you're giving excessively, you won't have what you need. But if you're never giving, you're going to be quite selfish. So you're going to need to come to the middle and give and share with the people around you. So anything that you see your mind's holding on to and clinging and you're having discontentedness, start practicing generosity. At one point, my son was attached to popcorn. I noticed during COVID, we had ordered popcorn from the movie theater, and he got this big bucket of popcorn, and he ate this big bucket of popcorn. And the very next day, he asked for more. And this popcorn was pretty expensive. So I went out and bought a whole bunch of popcorn, and we popped this popcorn, and we did this for many months. And then after a few weeks of popping this popcorn, I knew that he was attached to it. So I suggested to him that we bag some up and he go give it away to his friends in the village. So he bagged up this popcorn, like maybe 5, 6, 8 bags, and he went around the village and he gave out the bags to his friends, right? This was part of him training his mind to let it go. Right? But he still ate popcorn after that, but his mind was starting to let it go. And now he enjoys eating popcorn, but he's not eating it every day like he was. For about a good 6 months to a year, maybe even 2 years, he was eating popcorn like every day, popcorn, right? So we had all this popcorn in the house. And now it's just like, he can take it or leave it, right? So he needed to practice generosity with his popcorn to be able to train his mind to let it go. So if you see your mind is clinging and craving certain things, start practicing some generosity. That's going to help you. Other solutions is going to be improving your moral conduct through your intentions, speech, and actions, and even your livelihood. This is part of the Eightfold Path, because the Buddha is teaching you in the Eightfold Path, in the moral conduct, how to function without craving, desire, attachment. Lying, slander, harsh speech, and frivolous speech. All of those are based in sensual desire. Because when you're lying, your mind wants something. There's some sensual desire that you have, and your mind thinks, if I tell the truth, I'm not going to get what I want, so let me lie, right? Or the slander or gossip. The mind wants to look good in front of other people, so it will diminish and degrade and damage other people's reputation in order to look good in front of other people. That's the craving, right? And now this is producing unwholesome results for you in your day-to-day life when you're going around and belittling and diminishing and degrading other people. Or harsh speech. Harsh speech is where you're bitter and harsh and hostile. All that anger is coming from your own mind. There's something you want, and you're trying to fear this other person into doing things your way. There's some central desire. Maybe your mom or dad or your brothers and sisters or your life partner are doing things opposite of how you want them to do it. When they do it your way, you're happy. But when they do it their way, you're angry and frustrated. So now you might be bitter and harsh and hostile to try to fear them into doing things your way. So by you getting rid of your harsh speech, now you learn how to be gentle. So for example, say your child comes home with quote unquote bad grades, right? You might be bitter and harsh and hostile with them, yelling and hollering at them, trying to fear them into getting good grades. That's not going to solve your problem, right? Because now it's damaging your relationship with your child. Instead, what you would like to do is sit down and talk with them very gently. So, little girl, so little boy, what is it that led to this grade of an F on your report card? Why is it that your teacher is giving you an F? Oh, I didn't turn in my homework, and I didn't do this, and I didn't do that. Oh, okay, so it sounds like you need to do this, and you need to do this, and you need to do this. Do you need anything from mommy or daddy in order to help you to accomplish this? No, I just didn't turn my homework in on time. I did my homework. I just didn't turn it in. I forgot it. It was in my locker. Okay, so what are you going to do now going forward? So you talk this person through, right, to rise up wisdom of what was the decisions you made that led to this F. And how can you change these decisions so that you can get to an A or a B? Yelling and hollering at them doesn't do anything, right? The harsh speech doesn't do anything to fix this problem. Instead, you can talk to them and help them gain wisdom, because there's just a lack of wisdom. There were some unwise decisions that they made that led to the F. and you need to help them cultivate wisdom to get to the A. And you just need them to see what were the decisions that they made that led to the F, so that they can change those and they can get to the A. Right? So when you speak with harsh speech, there's some underlying craving. So when you learn how to speak with right speech, you'll be able to get rid of your cravings, desires, attachments. So each one of these aspects of moral conduct, it's not rules, it's not commandments, it's not about right or wrong, even though we call it right speech. It's actually righteous speech, wise speech, what is going to lead to you functioning in the world without craving, desire, attachment. That's what the Buddha is teaching you. Because whenever you make decisions through craving, whenever you're making decisions through sensual desire, it's going to produce unwholesome results or unwholesome gamma. So when a person is yelling and hollering at their child, they're not producing any beneficial results here. Their child might be feared into getting good grades for a period of time, but as soon as the parents have turned their back, that child not having the wisdom, they're just going to make different decisions in an unwise way because they don't have the wisdom of how to make wise decisions. They're just doing it out of fear, right? So you would like to cultivate wisdom and be able to make wise decisions in your day-to-day life. And now through your moral conduct, you'll be functioning without sensual desire. But your mind's going to need to be trained to do this. So the moral conduct is helping you to not function through craving, desire, attachment, and make wise decisions that are going to lead to wholesome results. Then, if you're trying to eliminate your sensual desire, there's a certain portion of it where you get to the point where you eliminate sexual cravings. You may or may not be in that position right now, depending on your age and your relationships. You can work on all your other sensual desires, like the chocolate cake or, all these other things. You can work on all these other sensual desires. But at some point, if you're looking to fully get rid of sensual desire, you're going to need to eliminate sexual cravings. But when or if you ever do that, that's a choice for you to make, right? I would have never told you that at 44 years old, I'm not 44 anymore, but at 44 years old, I chose to give up sex. I thought I'd be on my deathbed still having sex, right? Because it's really pleasurable, right? But then when you start seeing that it leads to the painful feelings, then I got to the point where I was like, yeah, I'm not interested in this anymore. It just isn't satisfying because it's going to ultimately lead to painful feelings. When I can't get it, I'm going to be angry and frustrated. So I chose at 44 to let go of sexual contact. But I would have never told you that I was going to do that at any point. So you can do all the other work on the path to enlightenment. And then at some point, maybe you have a partner, maybe you don't. Maybe you guys have been together for a period of time and you're ready to let that go. There's an opportunity for you to do that. There's meditation to help you eliminate sexual cravings from the mind. And there's other techniques that you can use to be able to eliminate it too. And then you'll see more and more peace coming into the mind. Because one of the strongest sensual desires that some people have is the craving for sexual contact, right? Not everybody. Some people, even in their teens, they don't have craving for sex very much. So some people can take it or leave it. But for some people, they have a really high sexual craving and it's very challenging to eliminate it. So maybe you don't start there. Maybe you start with all these other sensual desires and getting your mind more and more peaceful with those things. And then at some point, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, who knows? It's up to you. If you would like to completely eliminate your sensual desire, there's a ability for you to eliminate sexual cravings, and there's techniques for you to be able to do that. There's also reflection on death, because one of the central desires that the mind has is it's holding on to this life and wanting this life to be permanent. This is where it actually moves into the fetter of desire for form and desire for formless, which is number 6 and 7. But the mind can be holding on to the material objects in this world. And now when you're holding on to material objects, you can fear death, right? And this is part of the central desire. But it's also part of desire for form and formless, which we'll talk about tomorrow. So there's something called reflection on death, where you can sit and you can close your eyes and you can imagine that this being has died. You would sit there for maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes and basically play this out in your mind as if you're like a fly on the wall looking at your own funeral. And you're kind of like walking through this. Maybe your family's grieving, maybe other things are going on. You basically convince your mind that you've died, because that's the biggest amount of impermanence that you're going to experience in your life. That if you're holding on to the material possessions in the world, when you get close to death, it'll be very painful because your mind won't want to let go. So you would like to train your mind to let go long before death, because then it won't be painful. So if you do this reflection on death, it'll help you eliminate sensual desire where you're holding on to material objects, and including this life. Then in the present moment, when you're noticing discontentedness arising, you're going to need to restrain your mind. This is part of the mental discipline section of the Eightfold Path. You're going to need to practice mindfulness or awareness of mind. And then when you're noticing discontentedness arising as a bodily sensation, you're going to need to cut it off and let it go. And if you cut this off enough, eventually it won't arise any longer. It's like a wild bush that if you cut it back and cut it back and cut it back and cut it back and cut it back, you'll uproot it, and eventually you'll completely eliminate it. So let's just say you show up to the restaurant and you say, "Ma'am, sir, can I have a piece of chocolate cake?" And they say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, we don't have chocolate cake today." And you notice this bodily sensation coming up, that your anger is about to come up. You cut that off and let it go. Don't allow the mind to do that. Don't form that conditioned feeling. You cut that off. And now say the next time you come and you say, "Excuse me, can I have a piece of chocolate cake?" "Oh, sorry, we don't have the chocolate cake." Now you might feel some bodily sensations, but they're going to be less than they were the first time. And now you cut that off. And now maybe you come back the next time and you intentionally don't actually order the chocolate cake. You're training your mind to not long and yearn for this. And you're like, "No, I'm not going to order this chocolate cake any longer," right? And now slowly but surely you get to the point where you don't long and yearn for it. When you go a few weeks, a few months, and your mind isn't longing and yearning for this chocolate cake, then maybe at some point you just choose to start eating it again, but you're not attached to it. And you can see that from your mind because you've went an extended period of time without it. So whenever you're in the moment and you're noticing discontentedness arising, cut that off and let it go. Then you're going to need to identify your cravings using discontentedness as the red light on the dashboard of your car in order to eliminate your cravings. This is something that I teach in the group learning program, and I teach in some of the other programs that I teach, but I'll just share it with you briefly. Whenever you're experiencing discontentedness, it's always craving, desire, attachment. You can't experience discontentedness unless there's craving, desire, attachment. So if you were driving a car and the red light on the dashboard came on, alerting you to a problem with the car, you're not going to keep driving the car. You're probably going to pull over and start looking at the car. If you have some skills, you'll probably pop the hood and start looking yourself. But if you don't have any skills, you're going to take the car into the mechanic and let the mechanic sort this out, because it's unwise to drive this car with the red light dash on the dashboard, right? Well, your discontentedness, your anger, your frustration, your irritation, your shyness, your embarrassment, your disappointment, your guilt, your shame, your stress, your anxiety, all of that is a red light on the dashboard of your car. It's flashing and it's telling you, hey, you have some cravings, desires, attachments here. So what you would like to do is pull over, start looking inward. What are my cravings here? Why is this mind discontent? What is it longing, yearning for? There's some central desire. There's something that it wants to be permanent. And if you can figure that out, excellent. You figured it out. If you can't figure it out, that's where you take your car to the mechanic. That's where you take your mind to the mechanic. The mechanic in this situation is your teacher. Then you can come to your teacher and you can be like, hey, I've been stressed for the last 2 days or 5 days or 2 weeks. I can't figure out what it is. Can you help me? And we start asking you questions to be able to uncover what are your cravings, desires, attachments. When you do that a few times, you'll eventually build the skill and you can do it on your own, because you're not interested in being dependent on your teacher to be able to do this, but you are going to need to build the skill, and you're not going to necessarily have that skill. Your skill and ability to do meditation, that's one of the most important skills and abilities that you'll have, but the very next most important skill is being able to look inwards and be able to discover what are your cravings, desires, attachments. So you're going to most likely need help to be able to develop that skill. Just like you need help to develop your meditation practice, you're going to need help to develop this skill to be able to look inward and figure out what are your cravings, desires, attachments. And when you're able to start doing that, now you can start exposing your mind to situations that you find problematic. So I'll give you another example. One day when I left my house, I realized that I'd left my mobile phone at home, and this fear came up in my mind. And I happened to be sitting at a red light, and I was like, oh my goodness, my phone. And I was thinking about U-turning and going back home to get the phone. But I knew that wasn't going to solve the problem, right? So I decided that no, I'm going to keep going in my day, and I'm going to stay outside without the phone. I need to train this mind that the phone is not permanent, that it can't be with me permanently. Turning around to go get the phone doesn't solve the problem because it's the craving, desire, attachment that is causing that discontentedness. So I was supposed to be outside for about an hour and a half that day, but I ended up staying outside for like 5-6 hours. I went to the movies, I went to eat, I did all kinds of things outside by myself, right? And then after that, I waited about 2 or 3 days and I did it again. I intentionally left the phone at home and went outside. This time I felt uncomfortable leaving the house without the phone, but it wasn't the same level of that I had previously, the fear that was in the mind. So I just felt a little bit uncomfortable, but I went outside for 3, 4, 5, 6 hours. And then when I came home, I didn't run to the phone and start looking at the phone. I just left it where it was at. Right, for 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. Then eventually I went and looked at the phone. And I did this about 2 or 3 times. And then at one point, about 2 months later, I accidentally left the phone at home again. And I went to grab my phone and it wasn't there. And I was like, oh well. And I just kept on going. There was no fear, no discontentedness, no nothing. So I was pretty confident that I'd eliminated this craving to have the phone be permanent, because after 2 months of having done this for 2 or 3 times, when I went to reach for the phone and it wasn't there, there was no discontentedness whatsoever. Then about a year after that, I accidentally dropped the phone and the screen shattered. And I looked at it and I started laughing. I was like, of course the screen shattered. It's impermanent, right? So this is how you'll know that your mind has let go of a certain craving. Because if the mind was craving for this phone to be permanent, when the screen shattered, I would have been discontent. But I wasn't. I completely understood that it's impermanent, right? So you're going to need to identify your cravings, because when I was out and I reached for the phone and the fear came up, that was the red light on the dashboard of the car, and I started looking inward. What is the mind craving here? What is it longing, yearning for? It wants something to be permanent. What is it? The phone. It wants the phone to be permanent. So going to get the phone doesn't solve it. You got to put the mind in the situation that it doesn't want to be in, which is outside without the phone. And I needed to do that multiple times because I already knew that I could be comfortable outside with the phone. I needed to now train the mind to go outside without the phone and be comfortable in that situation too. So this is what you're going to need to do with all these different things. And a phone is a really good example because a lot of us have these phones and a lot of people's minds are attached to them. So this is one that you're probably going to need to do this with, is learn to go outside without your phone, right? And train your mind to be comfortable with that. And that's okay, right? And you're going to need to do that multiple times until you can be just as comfortable going outside without your phone as you are with your phone. And now your mind will be liberated from that craving, desire, attachment. And you'll notice, because of that liberation, there's more focus and more concentration that comes into the mind. Oftentimes people think that the concentration that you're getting on this path to enlightenment is coming from the meditation. And sometimes people spend a lot of time on their meditation. But what's actually producing the concentration and the focus and the clarity is getting rid of your central desire. Because as long as your mind is pulling in all these different directions, you can't be focused and you can't be concentrated. So when you start stripping away your central desire and your cravings, desires, attachments, that's where more focus and concentration will be coming up into your mind. The meditation is just an activity that's exercising your mind to make it possible for you to eliminate your cravings, desires, attachments. So you're going to need to do work outside of your meditation to strip away the central desires, and that's what's actually going to produce the concentration, the focus, and the clarity of mind. Okay, so this is how you eliminate central desire, all these different things. The way that you're going to know that central desire is eliminated, the big one, is that you're no longer going to have any arising of conditioned feelings. You notice that your mind's completely stable, steady, and peaceful in all these different situations. You're going to a restaurant, maybe it's a new restaurant, your friends told you about it. In the past, you would have been really excited to go to the restaurant, and then when you show up and they're closed, you would be frustrated. But now your friends tell you about this new restaurant. You're like, sweet, I'm going to go see this new restaurant. You're on your way there. You're completely calm and peaceful. And then you show up and they're closed. You're like, oh well, I'll just come back another day. No big deal. You're not angry. You're not frustrated. You'll see these situations occurring where in the past you would have been upset and angry or frustrated. Now you're not like that anymore. By the time you get rid of your central desire, you won't even have that slightest annoyance related to these kinds of things. Your mind can be completely stable and steady and peaceful. You're not going to be longing and yearning through the sense spaces any longer. By the time you completely eliminate your central desire, you actually won't even be having sex any longer for at least 1 year. For a minimum of 1 year, you'll see that your mind has completely moved away from it because your mind's not longing and yearning. You will have seen the danger in allowing your mind to have central pleasures, that if you allow your mind to do that, you're going to get the painful feelings right afterwards. Then you'll notice that there won't be any foods that you dislike, that you'll start to see food as just something to nourish the body, not to please the tongue. The way that people typically approach food is it's to please the tongue and please the mind. And there are certain foods that you like and you tend to gravitate towards those. And these foods that you dislike, you will push them away and you'll try to avoid them. But by the time you've completely eliminated your central desire, you can be fine with eating any and all foods. It doesn't even matter. That you just look at the food as something to nourish the body. And sure, you eat certain food that is enjoyable, but when you eat this food over here that doesn't taste the same, you can still enjoy. You can still use this food to just nourish the body. You're not trying to chase after pleasant feelings through food any longer. You'll notice that you're no longer addicted to anything at all. Your mind's not clinging and holding on to these things, craving for them to be permanent. You'll notice that you'll be easily able to fall asleep, and there'll be a high quality of sleep. Right now, you might have difficulties falling asleep, and maybe even when you are sleeping, it's not a very good quality of sleep. But you're going to notice that this is not happening when you've eliminated central desire. Because when you have central desire, your mind's going to be pulling in all these different directions, and it's going to make it hard for you to sleep. And your quality of sleep is going to be affected as well. The mind will have a significant amount of focus, concentration, memory, and clarity of mind because it's not pulling in all these different directions. And you'll notice that there's a high degree of calmness, satisfaction, and fulfillment in your mind. There's joy. This is the unconditioned happiness that is coming into the mind more and more. And the discontentedness that you experience once your central desire is gone will be minimal. It'll be like once every 2 months, once every 3 months, once every 6 months, but it's going to be related to the higher fetters, not this central desire. Central desire, when you get rid of that, that's going to take away probably like 98% of your discontentedness by getting rid of the central desire. And your mind will be quite peaceful and quite joyful. You'll get discontent maybe once every 2 months, once every 6 months, and it'll be very minimal when it's happening. It might only last for like 30 seconds or a minute, and your mind will be able to easily stamp it out. So this central desire is when we talk about craving, desire, attachment, wants, and expectations, it's central desire. This is the big one. And when you having this central desire, your mind's going to be happy when it gets what it wants, and it's going to be unhappy when it's not getting what it wants. These pleasant and painful feelings. It's going to see things as agreeable and disagreeable, or you're going to be favoring and opposing certain things, or favoring and opposing certain things. Okay, so you guys have any questions on central desire? Yes, ma'am.
I want to take myself as an example. So after a day's tiring work, I want to find some conditioned happiness for example, like drinking bubble tea Like I realize it's kind of like conditioned happiness to cover the painful feelings, which is not good. But my point is, like, what am I looking for? I'm looking for something that is permanent. What is it? And how can I get rid of it? I mean, should I buy some bubble tea and give it to someone, or any better ways to solve it? Because I once tried to control my desire. I know I shouldn't do this because it's just my mind. It's just the mind. It wants something can produce, you know, like some chemicals that make the body happy. So I try to control it, but it still doesn't help a lot.
Okay.
I'm still craving for it.
Yeah, so with your mindfulness or your awareness of mind, which you learn about from the Eightfold Path, I don't think you've learned that from me yet.
No.
You're going to need to learn the Eightfold Path. And your mindfulness is your awareness of mind. And you see that at the end of your day, you're headed towards the bubble tea shop, or you're even thinking about heading towards the bubble tea shop because that's where you're looking for those pleasant feelings. You cut that off, you redirect it, you apply what's called right effort, and you choose not to go to the bubble tea place. You just choose to go home or go for a walk or go to the park, and your mind might be a little bit agitated or irritated when this is occurring, but each time you do that, it's going to become less and less. And then when you go 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, and you don't need any bubble tea whatsoever, and you can see that you're just as content and peaceful without it as you were with it. Now, at some point, if you decide to start drinking bubble tea again, then you start drinking bubble tea again. But you're going to need to distance your mind from it for probably a good 6 months before your mind's going to be willing to let it go. And you need all those steps of the Eightfold Path, like the meditations and other things, to be able to train your mind to be willing to let it go. What it's craving is it's craving for permanently agreeable flavors through the tongue. And when you get that agreeable flavor on the tongue, that's where you get the conditioned pleasant feelings. And after this hard day of work where the mind's experiencing painful feelings, it thinks the way to solve that painful feeling is to get a conditioned pleasant feeling. But that's not actually solving it. It's actually keeping it going and making it longer. So that's why when you see your mind going towards the bubble tea, you got to cut it off and let it go and redirect it and take it somewhere else.
So I can find some alternative solutions, as you said, like going to the park or taking a hot shower or doing a massage. Is that okay?
Yeah, but then eventually if your mind's attached to those things, you're going to have to get rid of those too. Right? So you need to kind of pick and choose. Like, I'll give you an example. Like my son at one time, he was attached to sleeping with his mom, and he used to sleep with his mom up until he was about maybe 10 years old, I think it was, 11 years old. He was sleeping with his mom, right? And she was attached to it too. So they really had this craving and attachment to sleeping with each other. And I knew this, and he has a bedroom at the house. He just had never used it. It was just always there. It was kind of like a storage room. So I started talking to him about this bedroom and letting him know about this bedroom. And he wasn't really that into it at first. So I put some of his toys in there. So every once in a while he would go in there and play in the room. And then he would still be sleeping with his mom. Well, when I realized his mind was kind of ready to go towards the bedroom and get away from this attachment, I suggested to him, I said, hey, you know, if you would like to start sleeping in your room, we have that extra TV that nobody's ever using. If you like, I'll put the TV in your bedroom, and then you can have a TV in your bedroom. And he was like, oh, really? I'm going to get my own TV? I was like, yeah, nobody's using it. Might as well put it in your room. He was like, okay, I'm going to start sleeping in my room now. I was like, well, it's up to you, but you know, sure, go ahead. So basically what he was doing is he was using one craving to get away from another craving, right? So that craving to the TV drew him into the room, which now he was able to get rid of this craving to sleep with his mom. But then he had to eliminate his craving to his TV. And then there were things that I did to help him with that. But it helped him to get away from this craving. So if you're going to go get a massage and that's going to replace the bubble tea, maybe you get away from this bubble tea. But if you're noticing that you're at the end of a hard day at work, you're constantly going to the massage, and now your mind's getting conditioned pleasant feelings from that, you're going to need to let that go too at some point, where you maybe go an extended period of time without getting a massage. But then ultimately, when your mind does let it go and you're not getting conditioned pleasant feelings from it anymore, you can actually do the massage and enjoy it, but you're not getting conditioned pleasant feelings. This is kind of challenging for the unenlightened mind to understand how to enjoy something without conditioned pleasant feelings, because it doesn't know how to do that. But you can learn how to do that. And that's what the mind needs to learn how to do, and see like, whoa, I can enjoy this chocolate cake, but I don't have conditioned pleasant feelings. Or I can enjoy this massage and not have conditioned pleasant feelings. Or I can enjoy this bubble tea and not get conditioned pleasant feelings. But in the process of doing that, you're going to need to distance yourself from it. The Buddha teaches you this, is to distance yourself from it for an extended period of time, train your mind to let it go. And then when your mind has let it go, then you might start enjoying the bubble tea, but you don't have conditioned feelings. And you'll be able to see that with your mindfulness, that you don't have the conditioned pleasant feelings.
Okay, so like if I just want to give it up, I just want to give up drinking. So after I'm really tired, is it any other good way? Because feeling tired is also kind of like painful feelings. It's like how the body and the mind feels.
Is there any other way to get rid of the bubble tea? Is that what you're asking?
Tiredness, the tired feeling, the painful feelings after a day's work.
The tiredness is coming from the central desire. So at your work, you have cravings there. You're wanting maybe your coworkers to do things a certain way, or you're wanting your boss to do things a certain way, or you're wanting to look good in front of your coworkers or your boss. So there's some cravings that you have there. When you get rid of those cravings, that's where you'll get rid of your exhaustion. Same thing. Same thing. When your mind is tranquil, the body will be tranquil. As long as your mind has central desire and you're chasing, in some cases you'll get what you want, you'll be happy. In other situations you won't get what you want, you'll be experiencing painful feelings. That's what's causing the exhaustion in the body, is the painful feelings in the mind. The mind is like the CPU of the computer. If the CPU is functioning well, the computer works great. But if the CPU isn't working, the whole computer shuts down. It's not really functioning well. So the human being, the mind, not the brain, the mind, which is non-physical. The brain is the physical organ. The mind is the CPU of this being. And if this mind is not well, the body is not going to be well, because the body is the employee. The mind is the boss. But if you take care of the boss and you clean up the boss, the body will be completely tranquil. So that exhaustion and tiredness that you're experiencing is because of the central desire in the mind. And when you're going to work, you're not getting what you want, and now you're getting those painful feelings and the body feels exhausted. So you need to, yes, get rid of that bubble tea, but you also need to get rid of the cravings, desires, attachments at work that are producing those painful feelings. That's why you're not interested in turning to the bubble tea, because the bubble tea doesn't solve the problem. Whatever your cravings are at work that are leading to the painful feelings, that's what's going to solve it when you eliminate those cravings. Yeah, you're welcome. And
I just wondering, what will be your suggestion for business?
You mean like what business should you have? You mean like that? Like your own personal business?
Yeah, personal business. For example, I meet some customer that they can have we have the same industry, and I want to do business with him. Then what should I do? And because in some in terms of the class we learning today is also kind of craving.
Kind of what?
Craving the money.
Oh, craving money. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can pursue increased levels of wealth without craving, desire, attachment. It's possible to be rich and enlightened, right? But it's when you form your inner feelings based on the money that your mind now has craving and clinging. So if you were chasing after money, you're not going to be happy there. But if you're over here where you could care less whether you had money or not, you're not going to be happy there either. That's where the middle way comes in, that you need to gradually work towards improving your income and improving your life and the things that you have in terms of material possessions, but you need to learn how to not be attached to them. That's part of the training that the mind needs to do. So that central desire, the mind can have craving for money. That's part of the central desire that the mind has. So you need to learn how to walk towards improved levels of income without craving and chasing after it. Because if you're chasing after money, you can only be happy when you get what you want, and you'll be unhappy when you don't get what you want. And you'll kind of backstab people and gossip and make unwise decisions and all different kinds of things that'll lead to unwholesome results when you're chasing after money. So for you, I would encourage you, because you just started learning with me, I would encourage you to focus on the Eightfold Path first, is learning each one of those factors, committing them to your memory, and getting your practice up to the Eightfold Path. These things that I'm sharing here is what the Eightfold Path is going to help you to eliminate. So now we're talking in detail about how to go in and almost surgically remove sensual desire. But if you don't have the Eightfold Path well underway yet, these things aren't going to be so beneficial. That's why I started off, if you remember when I was back here talking about the solutions of how to fix it, I started with the Eightfold Path. That's what I suggest you guys that are just starting, that you really focus on this. This is a good 6 months to a year even of your beginning of your practice, just focused on the Eightfold Path, because there's connected teachings that connect into that. And you need to really get that well developed, committed to your memory, and study it outside of class so that you know it really well. Sometimes students will talk with me and they will kind of like, almost like they're teaching me the Eightfold Path to confirm that they know it. Right? So if you're walking through the Eightfold Path, you can be like, all right, teacher, can you just sit here and listen to me? I'd like to confirm that I understand the Eightfold Path. And you can walk through each individual factor and you can explain your understanding of the Eightfold Path from your mind, from your memory, and then where you're not quite understanding it, I can help you. So you're going to need to spend a few weeks, a few months learning the Eightfold Path and dialing that into your life more and more closely, because that's what's going to help you to get rid of your central desire. Then once you get up and running with that, then you might decide to do some of these other things that I'm talking about here.
Okay.
Okay. All right. No more questions? Do you have a question?
Yeah. So I don't know how it happens to get enlightened. So I'm quite curious about what you said before. You said if you know it when you're like 20s, you probably wouldn't get married and have a child. But I have a question. Would those experiences help you to be enlightened? For example, I like the examples that you give to us when you are explaining about different sensual desires. You mentioned chocolate cake, and you gave us the example of your wife and child. And also in our life, we probably have to practice a lot to get rid of those sensual desires to reach enlightenment. I want to ask, like, if those experiences help you to be enlightened. There are like people who maybe in China, if their kids, they were born and they go to the temple at a very young age. They didn't experience anything. They probably don't know the taste of chocolate, or they never have sexual contact or things like that. And how will they reach enlightenment? Why do you think having a wife and child would postpone the process of being enlightened?
Okay, so I'm very pleased with everything that's happened in my life. I don't regret anything that I've done in my life. I've done many unwise things, but all of that has led me to the point where now I have the wisdom that I have about this path. In fact, that's why this first book is so thick, because I've done so many unwise things that I had plenty to write about. I understand the natural law of karma through my own experience with it, and being able to see all the unwise decisions that I made and what it led to. And that's what I can see the natural law of karma very clearly. So I don't regret any of the things that I've done. And all of those things helped me to cultivate the wisdom where now I can share with you how to get to the peace and the joy. But what I was saying about, knowing what I know now, I wouldn't have gotten married or having a child, because I know that in that situation where you're getting married and you're having a child, there's attachment there, and it's going to take you time to get rid of that attachment. I'm very pleased that I did it. And in fact, for some people, they're going to have to get married in order to eliminate their attachment. They're going to have a child in order to eliminate their attachment, because there's two ways to eliminate attachment. There's cutting it off and letting it go, which is what we tend to focus on a lot, but there's also fulfilling it and actually doing it. So for example, if I had a craving to go to the Philippines, and I always wanted to go to the Philippines, and I'm longing, yearning for it, I can cut that off and let it go, realizing, hey, I don't have the money to go to the Philippines. I can't afford it. I'm not going to do that. And you can eliminate it that way, cutting it off and letting it go. But another way to eliminate this craving to go to the Philippines is to just go. Go to the Philippines, go check it out, travel there, look around, and then you can eliminate that craving. But you need to be careful, because then the mind's going to want to go to Tokyo and Beijing and, somewhere in Vietnam. It's going to want to keep, going to all these different places. That's the never is there enough. The mind is always craving and craving and craving. So for me, to get rid of my craving to have a life partner, I needed to have one. And that was the way I got rid of it. For me to get rid of my craving for a son, I needed to have a son in order, or not a son, but I had a craving for a child, and I ended up having a son. So I ended up having a child in order to get rid of that craving. So in that respect, that helped me to get to enlightenment, right? And that's the way I was able, or I'm not saying that I'm enlightened, but that was what helped me to be able to get to where I am today, right? So if somebody understood these teachings at a very young age, like a child, like you're talking about going away to a temple, a child has very minimal pollution in their mind. So the earlier in life that you start learning and practicing these teachings, the better. As you age, you accumulate more and more pollution in your mind, and it makes it more and more challenging for you to get to enlightenment. So that's what I was saying, that if I was in my 20s and I knew what I know now, not having a wife and not having a child would have eliminated my mind getting attached in those situations, and I wouldn't have had to work so hard to get rid of those attachments. But in my case, it didn't work that way. For me, I didn't know these teachings in my early 20s, and I needed to get a partner and a child in order to extinguish it. But if somebody understood these teachings and they weren't interested in having a partner, or they weren't sure, perhaps they might decide to not have a partner, and then they're going to make their life towards enlightenment that way. But for some people, they would like to have a partner, and now they're going to have a partner, and that's going to extinguish their craving for a partner. So that's why the first question I asked Anne was, have you decided whether you're going to have a partner or not? And she says, I don't know. Right? So that's where she's at right now. She's not saying she's not going to have one, but she's not saying she is going to have one. She just doesn't know. And that's a good place to be, that, I just don't know yet. And then now you figure it out along the way. So it's not that you, like everybody who's going to get to enlightenment should never be in a relationship and never have a child. I would never say that, but it's that those are two significant attachments that your mind's going to have to deal with, and that's very challenging to eliminate those attachments. And it can slow you down from getting to enlightenment, but that's okay, because also having a partner and having a child can help you get to enlightenment too, if you need to fulfill that attachment in order to let it go.
Thank you. That's very clear.
Yeah.
Hi. Is there another type of desire, or do you think all desires are sensual?
Can you say that again?
Is there another type of desire, or do you think all desires are sensual?
Oh, all desires are sensual desires. Their mind is longing, yearning, essentially, for some pleasure. we classify this through the fetters, like personal existence view. I don't think you were here last night when I was teaching that. That's a certain type of desire. It's ultimately also a central desire, but we classify it separately. Tomorrow I'm going to be teaching desire for form and desire for formless. These are classified separately, but ultimately it is essentially a central desire for the most part, but we classify it separately.
What about the desire to get enlightened?
Someone can have a desire for that, but you don't have to have a desire for it. You need to be able to understand what a desire is. I taught this on Monday morning as part of this retreat. A desire is a longing, a yearning, and chasing after the objects of your affection. But if you were on the other side where you could care less whether you ever experience improvement in your life, that's two opposite sides. That's what the mind in the unenlightened state can really see very clearly, where there's a longing, yearning, and chasing, or you're just dull and you could care less about what's going on in your life. What the Buddha is teaching you is the middle way. And you can get to enlightenment through the middle way, where you're gradually working towards a goal, objective, or interest. It's not a desire. It's not a longing, yearning. It's something that you're working towards as a goal, objective, or interest. But you even need to make sure you know what a goal, objective, or interest is, because oftentimes people are saying, hey, I have this goal to, say, get a college degree. And now when you get your college degree, you're really happy. But when you don't get your college degree, you're frustrated or agitated. That's not a goal. That's a craving, desire, attachment, masquerading as a goal. A true goal, you can be happy whether you accomplish it or not. A true goal, a true objective, a true interest is you're working towards it and you're not forming your feelings on whether you accomplish it or not. So if you're working towards a true goal and you're 80% of your way there, you can look at it and you say, I'm 80% of the way there. I could extend my timeline and give myself more time to get this goal. I could add more resources to be able to help me get this goal. Or you know what? I'm 80% of the way there. I'm completely fine with that. And I don't need to go any further. Right? And you can maintain your contentedness. But if it's a craving, desire, attachment that's masquerading as a goal, you can only be happy if you get what you want. Right? So when you need to understand what a desire is a longing, yearning, chasing after something. Right? If you're chasing after enlightenment, you won't get there. But also if you're over here where you could care less about what's going on in your life, you could care less if you're angry and bitter and hostile and harsh, you could care less how you treat other people, you're not going to experience the peace and joy there either. But when you work towards enlightenment as a goal, as an objective or an interest, and gradually progressing towards it, now you can actually achieve it because your mind's not longing, yearning for it. You're just making wise decisions towards it.
Thanks.
You're welcome. All right. So looks like we have a question coming in here. I think this is Rachel. Hi, David. I am traveling with my family. My brother is suffering with sensual desire and reacting with ill will. Mainly, we are making too much noise in the morning and he cannot sleep. My question is around the ill will reaction. We are all triggering his sensual desire. But why is the ill will stronger with me? He seems to show much more bitterness, anger, and hostility directed towards me particularly. I am assuming there is a higher level of attachment to me. Perhaps I am unsure. Yeah, that's exactly what it is, Rachel. He's attached to you. He has craving, desire, attachment, wants, and expectations of you. You're a quote-unquote closer relationship than the other people. That's why the ill will is stronger towards you, because the central desire is stronger. So while we call it craving, desire, attachment, and there's wants and expectations, it's really a spectrum, right? You can have like a little light craving, desire, attachment where you want a bag of M&Ms and you go into 7-Eleven and they don't have your M&Ms. You're like, man, they don't have my M&Ms. Now you're like a little bit irritated. Or you could have a really strong craving, like attachment to your relative, like your dad or someone like that, and now when they die, now the mind's like highly disconnected discontent for like 3 months or 3 years, where this little bag of M&Ms, the mind was only discontent for like 2 seconds, right? Where over here, this deeper attachment, there was more discontentedness. So whenever somebody has an elevated level of discontentedness, you know that it's a deeper held attachment and it's higher up on the spectrum of how strong the craving, desire, attachment is. Okay, so Pam is asking, excuse me, David, what would be the key or the anchor we should consider to eliminate sensual desire? Because I get lost with so many examples. That is, what would indicate to us that thinking or doing what would cause us to eliminate sensual desire? So just like I shared with Pam, I suggest you start with the Eightfold Path. This particular retreat is a retreat that I teach once a year, and students are typically coming into this retreat that have already studied all the foundational teachings with me. But there's, of course, sometimes people who come in that are just getting started with me. So what I suggest you do is go back to the foundational teachings of the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, the 5 precepts, which includes meditation training, and really focus on that. That's the best thing to get started with. Here, this is something that people learn and need access to, much later. If you don't have the Eightfold Path well underway, all these other things are going to be, a little bit too far and beyond where you are right now. So I suggest you focus on studying the Eightfold Path, and you'll be able to get the recordings because I teach this frequently. It's on our YouTube channel, it's on our podcast, it's everywhere, it's in our books and stuff like that. Pam's asking another thing. When you mention speaking right and acting right, I wonder what is right, because just as there is no such thing as good or bad, there is no such thing as right just because it is right. It seems like an ambiguous word to me, because what is right for me is not necessarily right for someone else. Okay, so what the Buddha is describing in the Eightfold Path that we're translating as right speech, one of the ways you might think about that is wise speech. He's helping you to be able to see the cause and effect, or the action and result. He's helping you to be able to see what decisions are you making through your moral conduct that are leading to a particular result. And that's what you're awakening to. When we talk about awakening to enlightenment, you're awakening to this natural law of karma. And this is another reason why it's so important for you to go back to the Eightfold Path and really focus on that. I taught it on Monday evening, but you only learned it once so far. You need to go back and understand that it's not about right and wrong or good or bad. It's about wise speech and wise actions and wise livelihood that's going to lead to wholesome results. And you can independently verify what the Buddha is teaching you about moral conduct, about how these decisions about your speech, actions, and livelihood are going to lead to wholesome results. Or if you make unwise decisions, it's going to lead to unwholesome results. This is the natural law of karma. So if you go back and study that and reach out for help, I'll help you so that you can be able to see that it's not about right or wrong, even though we use it and we use that word. It's really like righteous speech and righteous action, which is kind of more in line with wise speech and wise action and things like that. And then Pam finally says, finally, I am going through the grief of a breakup, but now I feel guilty and ashamed for feeling pain and wanting to cry, because with everything you explain, and I have heard from monks that love or heartbreak does not exist, that happiness and unhappiness do not exist, that pain does not exist, because in the end, all of this speaks of impermanence. How can I get out of this? And how can I get through this moment? I just want to cry, but that's not valid either. Sorry, I'm a bit lost, and I'm trying to release all of these feelings, but I don't know how to do it without feeling bad. Pam, what I suggest you do is schedule a personal guidance session with me. If you go to our website and you click on buddhadailywisdom.com, click on teacher, and you'll see there that you can schedule personal guidance with me. It's completely free. It'll show you available times based on your time zone. And then if you schedule that, then we can meet one-on-one in Zoom, and I'll be able to help you with all these things. There's no quick fix here, but you need to be able to get started with the teachings that you need is foundational, because for me to be able to help you and explain something in an answer for 2 or 3 minutes, it's not going to help you. The best thing I can do is offer my time, that you can schedule personal guidance, and then we'll have a full hour to sit and talk, just you and I, and I'll be able to help you. Okay, so then Pam says, perfect. David. Thank you so much. You're welcome. And Rachel says, very helpful. Thank you. Okay. Yes, Joel. Yeah. This one?
So I'm aware of this, but let's say for today, an example, I was at Central Festival and I wasn't starving or like super hungry. But I had some challenges, like walking around, a lot of stuff had meat and I don't like meat. It's not, I don't eat it. It doesn't, since a child. I'd never digested or like, so anyways. So it seems like sometimes a lot in maybe in Chiang Mai is amazing. Like there's a lot of vegan places, a lot of vegetarian, but sometimes it seems there's a lot of like there was a lot of bubble tea, or things that were so like I looked around and I was like things that were so, and then there were, sometimes when you put hot food in plastic, you eat the plastic too. So I'm like, am I being picky? What's going on here? Am I okay? Should I just eat this? But then what is it going to cost me? And food, apparently, even to science, has energy. Like there's certain foods, the way that it's raised, the sun, and it makes there's some food that you eat it makes you feel lazy, or tired or heavy or dull or cloggy. And then there's certain foods you eat, it makes you feel yeah. It makes you feel more energized, more alive, more. So then that's when the middle way will come, right? And you would just be like, okay, let me get out of here. This is not where I'm gonna find the food that's gonna.
The food that you need. Yep. Okay. It's impermanent. Yeah. And see, you're peaceful because you're not clinging to it, right?
Hello? Yeah. So then that. So that will be, I guess, the middle way. I was like, okay, let me get out. I even went inside the supermarket and then the vegetables were like packed. And I'm like, do I want to heat it? Do I want to I'm aware of it, the craving, the desired, but then I have to take care of this body as well at this time. And if it's not gonna make me feel good, then why will I force myself to eat it? Or just out of having to feed the body? Or if it doesn't smell good, why will I put myself in a place that is like doesn't smell good? Or like I get it, I can put it if I'm gonna react in anger or offensive to a country or a place or people, but it doesn't mean I have to stay there and it smells like it's that smell can go into my lungs. It can, it would not be wise to either eat it or smell it or drink it or and then for me to say anything like I don't know. Sometimes I feel out of staying in harmony. A lot of the times they just silence. It is what it is. In different scenarios. So yeah, that would be, I guess, the middle way, and just, I guess, myself looking. Yeah.
So you can't cling to any of these things, even being a plant-based eater. You can't cling to it, right? Because if you cling to it, you'll be discontent. I've been in situations before where, for 5 years, I was solely plant-based. I didn't eat any eggs, any cheese, anything, right? No yogurts, none of that kind of stuff. And then we ended up taking this trip, and we were in the US, and we were at this place, Legoland, because my son was 9 years old at the time. And the food was included in the hotel and everything like this. And we were like deep, far away. We don't have much money. So we had the food there at the resort, and they didn't serve plant-based food. They had some eggs, and they had some pancakes that had eggs in them, and French toast that had eggs in them and stuff. So I knew for those 4 days that we were at that resort, I was going to need to eat this, right? And that's not what I choose to eat. That's not what I prefer to eat. But I can maintain my contentedness and my joy in that situation because I understand eating plant-based is not permanent, that you can't even cling to that. So I just did what I needed to do. I ate a little bit of yogurt, ate a little bit of eggs because I know I needed to keep this body healthy. And then as soon as we left there, and ultimately we ended up getting back to Thailand, I can go back to eating plant-based again. So you're going to be in situations where you're at a mall and they don't have any plant-based food. And that's where you need to take stock of, okay, what am I going to do here? Do I have enough energy to leave and go somewhere else where I can get plant-based food? Or should I just go ahead and eat that omelet? Or should I eat that thing? Where I draw the line for myself is I don't eat meat under any circumstance. I don't eat the animal flesh, but I will eat eggs occasionally, or I will have something like that, cheese occasionally, even ice cream. And I started doing this because my B12 dropped so low. I needed to be able to do this, but you got to get to the point where you don't even crave and cling to those kinds of things. But so you know that generally you're going to eat plant-based, and generally I like to eat out of these types of containers, but you're going to be in situations where that's not going to be possible, and now you just do what you can do to take care of this body, and that's the middle way. But then when you're at your home area, that where all the foods are, all the restaurants that you visit, all the service providers that you like to patronize, now you got that. But when you travel and stuff like that, that's a time where you should already know you're not going to be able to eat all the same types of things that you normally eat because you don't know that area very well. So you do the best you can do. And then when you get back to your home area, then you can use the things that you normally use and eat the things you normally eat. And that's where, if you don't have sensual desire, you'll be completely content. You'll be able to travel and be like, yeah, I don't usually eat eggs, but you know what? I need to do it in this situation. Or I don't usually eat out of plastic containers, and that's something that I don't usually prefer to do. But in this situation, I need to go ahead and do that. And now you just go ahead and do it. And then you maintain your joy, you maintain your contentedness, and you just move on to the next thing. Make sense? Okay. All right. So hello to those of you guys that are showing up for the 9 o'clock. These are people online. Hello to all of you guys that are showing up, for the 9 o'clock class. I'm actually still teaching a retreat. So if you guys would like to just join in, we're getting ready to actually learn about ill will. This is the 5th fetter. Okay. So far we've been talking about sensual desire. The mind, when it gets what it wants, it gets pleasant feelings, right? When it doesn't get what it wants, it gets painful feelings. And one of the painful feelings that arises is anger, hatred, and ill will, right? So let's talk about what this is. What it is hostility, anger, aggression, resentment, frustration, irritation, and annoyance. That's coming from your own mind. It's coming from the sensual desires not getting fulfilled. We weren't born with ill will. We didn't have ill will when we were born. We didn't go into the nursery at the hospital hating other babies. We didn't go into the hospital having anger and bitterness and harshness towards other beings. That was developed in our mind because as we were born, we had craving and we had what's called ignorance. And those cravings led us to forming more and more ill will in our mind. These are deeply rooted containers in the mind, right? So this anger, hatred, and ill will is coming from the conditioned experiences that we're having, that our sensual desires are not getting fulfilled. And now that ill will is coming up in our mind, the anger and hatred and bitterness and hostility. Once again, welcome to all of you guys showing up. I'm still teaching a retreat here. So if you guys are showing up for meditation and chanting, I'm just going to teach ill will. This is the fetter. We're part of a retreat. We kind of went over our schedule, but I'm just going to keep teaching. You guys are welcome to join right in. Okay, so this is what the anger and hatred and ill will is. And this is where when that ill will is arising, it's going to affect your intentions, your speech, and your actions. And this is where you damage your relationships. That's why it's so detrimental to your mind, and you'd like to get rid of it, because the mind firmly believes that this anger and bitterness is coming from the other person. But if you study the teachings of the Buddha, you can see very clearly that it's the central desire that is producing this. So you come to understand the last thing you're interested in doing is having ill will towards others, because when you put out ill will towards others, even the slightest little bit, it's going to come back to you, because you're causing harm, so that harm is going to come back to you. So the symptoms of your ill will is that you're going to have conditioned painful feelings. Things like sadness, anger, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, that's all going to be in the mind. Those are the conditioned feelings, because the mind's not getting what it wants. And now those painful feelings, as they're arising, that's where the unskillful conduct comes in. You're going to notice hostility, aggression, bitterness. You're going to notice that you argue with people, right? The mind's going to want to argue. There's going to be broken relationships. And once again, there's going to be lack of focus, concentration, memory, and clarity of mind. Think about the times when you're really angry and you're the angriest. You're not thinking clearly, right? Because your mind is so angry, it's polluted with that anger. You don't have concentration and focus and memory and clarity of mind. The Buddha calls this muddle-mindedness, or that the mind is muddled, right? Because when the anger is coming up, you can't even see straight. It's like you see red, right? That's essentially what the mind's doing. When that anger is coming up, it's very exhausting. It's very tiring. That's part of the symptoms that you're going to experience as part of the anger arising in the mind, that you're going to experience this exhaustion and tiredness. You'll have difficulty sleeping. Have you ever laid awake at night being angry? Right? Of course you have. Right? We all have at some point, right? You're laying in bed just being angry and frustrated and irritated and blaming other people for everything that you're experiencing. You're going to have difficulty sleeping when you have ill will. You'll get headaches as well, right? The mind is not the brain. The brain is the physical organ, right? And then there's the mind, which is non-physical. When your mind has anger, it's going to hurt. You're going to experience headaches. That's part of the unwholesome karma. You might even notice chest pains, right? Because as that anger is coming up, it's putting a lot of pressure on your chest. And there's other health-related issues because it's putting strain on the body. And you can even experience a shortened lifespan. Someone who goes around constantly angry and bitter and harsh and hostile, they're going to have a tendency to have a shorter lifespan than someone who doesn't otherwise have that anger and hostility. You might notice that there's this inner dialogue within your own mind where you're degrading and diminishing yourself. Because if you have ill will towards others, you will tend to have ill will towards yourself too. And that's that negative, degrading inner dialogue within your own mind. So that's part of the symptoms of ill will. You also notice that you have aversion towards people and situations. What aversion is where you're pushing something away, because the mind is experiencing those painful feelings of the anger, and it thinks the way to solve it is to push it away. It thinks if I push this person or this situation away, that it'll solve the problem. But it actually doesn't, because the problem is inside the mind. It's the anger and the bitterness. The cause of that problem is the central desire, the craving, desire, attachment. Okay? So now the remedies, or the solution for this, is the Eightfold Path, because that's what's going to teach you and train your mind to eliminate all the central desire. So you need to get the Eightfold Path up and running for an extended period of time. And that's why it's so important that you start with that teaching. You need to memorize it and commit it to your memory. And as I mentioned to you, if you'd like to schedule some time with me to be able to go through that Eightfold Path to confirm your understanding of it, you're more than welcome to, because I'll sit there and I'll listen to you almost like you're teaching it to me. And then where you're not quite understanding it, I'll be able to help you. Okay, so you're going to need to get that Eightfold Path up and running for a consistent, ongoing basis, and realize you need to tweak that. It's going to be gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. As part of that Eightfold Path, you're going to need loving kindness meditation. This is a meditation that's going to essentially rewire your mind to eliminate the anger, hatred, and bitterness that's in the mind. This is a different type of meditation. I'm actually going to be teaching it, I think, tomorrow morning as part of our retreat. I'm going to be teaching this tomorrow, that you can learn the Eightfold Path. You can learn the loving kindness meditation. But it's not just the meditation that's going to transform your mind. That's going to help you. That's going to essentially fill up your gas tank. But then you're going to need to go out into the world and be loving and kind through your intentions, speech, and actions. You're not going to be able to meditate your way to the elimination of anger. You're going to need to, yes, meditate to build up your gas tank, so to speak, but then you're going to need to go out in the world through your intention, speech, and actions and be loving and kind. That's why the Eightfold Path is so important, because if you don't understand right intention, right speech, right action, and right livelihood, you'll still be making unwise decisions about your moral conduct. So you're going to need to go out into the world and make wise decisions about your moral conduct. And that's where the real transformation is occurring. The meditation is just providing the groundwork for you to then go out into the world and be loving and kind. The meditation itself isn't what's producing the transformation. It's going out into the world. And in that situation where you're confronted with something, where normally anger would come up and you'd be bitter and harsh and hostile, you're going to need to apply right effort to get rid of that hostility and be loving and kind in this situation. And that's where the real work is happening. Then you're going to need to restrain the mind. Where you see the anger and the bitterness and the hostility coming up, you're going to need to restrain it. Where in the past, you might have argued with someone, you might have yelled and hollered at them, you might have been doing those kinds of things, you're going to need to restrain the mind. If you've ever ridden a horse and you pull back the reins to stop the horse, that's what you're doing with your mind. You need to restrain it. You need to pull it back. And in some situations, the best thing to do, most situations, is to walk away. Just walk away from the situation. Don't allow your mind to stay there. Because if you're angry and frustrated and agitated, you're just going to say unwise things. So if you're noticing they're starting to argue and be argumentative and be angry, you're noticing your anger starting to arise, just walk away. The Buddha calls this protecting the doorways of discontentedness. Remember, the doorways are the eyes, ears, nose, the tongue, the body, and the mind itself. That's the central desire. That's the contact that you're experiencing that's triggering your central desire that's leading to the ill will. So one of the ways to get rid of your ill will is to shut down the contact. That when you're sitting there looking at your mom or your dad or your brothers and sisters or your life partner or your children and you see them, they're becoming angry, or you hear their voice and you hear their anger, and now you're noticing it's building up in your mind, it's starting to get ready to produce anger in your own mind, that's where you break contact. You walk away. Protect your doorways. Because your doorways here, your eyes and your ears, right? And now if you continue to allow that contact to come through, it's going to arise ill will in your mind. And as long as you keep allowing that ill will to come up, the mind's going to stay wired that way. You would like to shut this down and get rid of this wiring that the mind has to stay angry and bitter and harsh and hostile. So by not allowing your mind to do that and walking away, you'll see more and more improvement there. So cutting off and letting go and restraining the mind is what's going to help you get rid of your ill will. The way that you're going to know that your ill will is eliminated from the mind is that there'll no longer be any arising of conditioned feelings such as anger, frustration, irritation, agitation, annoyance, even the slightest dislike. Right now, if there's certain people that you like, that's because they're meeting your expectations. They're doing things your way. If there's certain people you dislike, that's because they're not doing things your way. Your central desire isn't getting met. Your expectations, your wants aren't getting met. So you dislike them. But you need to understand impermanence, that not everyone's going to do things your way. And that's okay, right? That's what makes the world wonderful, is we're all different. We're all unique, right? So by the time you get rid of your ill will, you won't even have the slightest dislike towards another being. You will have love and kindness for everybody, understanding that everybody's different, and that's okay. Right? So you'll notice this for at least 1 year where you don't even have the slightest annoyance in your mind. And you'll know that you've eliminated your ill will. And then from that point forward, you'll never have ill will again. It's impossible for you to ever experience ill will again. It's like if you have a weed that's growing and you uproot the weed and you've taken the root out, the weed will never grow again. It's the same thing as once you completely remove ill will out of your mind, it will never grow again because you've taken the root of ill will out of your mind. So you'll see that there's no situation where you'll have these discontent feelings, not in any situation whatsoever. The mind will experience a significant amount of focus, concentration, memory, and clarity of mind because you don't have this central desire pulling in all these different directions. In order to get rid of your ill will, you have to get rid of the central desire. That's why these two are talked about together, because you have to get rid of the central desire in order to get rid of the ill will. So the same benefits of getting rid of the central desire, you're going to get those same benefits from eliminating the ill will. That there'll be focus, concentration, clarity, and deep memory. You'll notice that you'll be able to speak gently with everyone around you, that you won't be bitter and harsh and hostile with anybody whatsoever, including your parents, your siblings, your life partner, your children. You'll be able to be loving and warm and gentle with everybody because you don't have craving, desire, attachment anymore, and there's no ill will. You'll notice that smiling becomes very easy for you. It's very easy to smile when you're inwardly joyful, you're inwardly peaceful, that you don't have these longing yearnings, wanting things to be a certain way. Because if you have this longing yearning, wanting things to be a certain way, you'll be happy when you get it, and you'll be sad and frustrated when you don't. But when you're just always happy, because you don't have this agreeable and disagreeable contact and this favoring and opposing, you can just be smiling. You're just always smiling, right? It's really easy to smile when you're inwardly happy and joyful. You'll notice that people will, in general, not be bitter, harsh, and hostile with you, right? That you'll no longer be interested in arguing or arguing with anybody at all. That when you become more loving and kind, and that's what you're putting out for an extended period of time, the people around you will start doing that same thing. When you're enlightened, 99.99999% of the time, you'll be fine getting along with everybody and anybody. Well, I should say 100% of the time, you'll be fine with getting along with everybody. And everybody will get along with you. But there's very rare situations where no matter how you function, people will still be bitter and harsh and hostile with you because you're still experiencing impermanence, right? So you can be in a situation where you say something that is 100% right speech, and there can be a rare situation where somebody becomes bitter and harsh and hostile. I can give you an example of that. One time I was teaching right here at the temple, and somebody was asking me some questions about the wars in Ukraine and Russia and Gaza and Israel, and they were having a lot of difficulties, and they felt really sad and frustrated and stressed about it. And I was helping this person, and I was explaining to them their attachment and their craving, and helping them to be able to understand that they needed to let that go. Right. And one of the things I said is it's really unfortunate that these wars are occurring. Well, somebody else in the audience heard that and they didn't like it, that I said unfortunate. They thought I should have been mad and I should have been angry and I should have been condemning the war, right? Because they were angry. They were upset about the wars and they thought that I should be upset too. And the fact that I wasn't upset and I was using language like, it's unfortunate, they thought that I was a horrible person, that I should be condemning the war, right? So I was using right speech, but this person's mind had the expectation that I would be angry and I would be bitter and I would be harsh and I would condemn certain people involved in the war. But I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to condemn something because that's being judgmental. It would be unfortunate that these wars are continuing, and it would be wonderful if they stopped. But I'm not going to condemn people. I'm not going to be angry and frustrated and hostile and bitter. So in this situation, this person caused their mind to be angry because they wanted me to speak about the war in a certain way. And they wanted me to think about the war in a certain way, in the same way that they think about it. But my mind doesn't do that. I don't think about the war in the same way as them. I don't condemn people. I'm not bitter and harsh and hostile. I'm not judgmental towards people, right? So in this situation, I was using right speech. I didn't say anything unwise. I said that the war, it's unfortunate that these wars are going on, but they had a certain expectation. So you're going to be in situations where you can practice these teachings perfectly, and 99.9999% of the time, everybody will be loving and kind and warm and gentle around you. But occasionally, there's going to be a person that is upset. But you'll know that they're causing their own discontentedness. And in that situation, your mind will be completely peaceful and completely joyful because you know that you're not causing that person's discontentedness. And it's their own mind that's causing that, not you. And in 99.9999% of all your relationships, you have nothing but peace and joy in all these relationships. And because you're being loving and kind, that's what's coming back to you in all your relationships. So you'll notice that in general, people won't be bitter, harsh, and hostile with you because you're being loving and kind and warm. You don't have ill will any longer. Because you're no longer being bitter and harsh and hostile, people won't be bitter and harsh and hostile with you. But you need to do this for an extended period of time. It's not going to be 1 week or 1 month or even 1 year. You're going to need to be loving and kind for multiple years, and more the people around you are going to start changing slowly but surely. And you'll see that people will be loving and kind and warm and gentle with you. Your personal and professional relationships will be at ease when you don't have ill will any longer. Because when you have ill will, even in your relationships with your life partners, your friends, your family, you'll still kind of dig at them and poke at them and still trying to do things in certain ways. You still have some harmful speech and certain harmful intentions in these situations. Even though you love these people, you'll kind of dig at them and poke at them occasionally. And that's all going to come back to you, right? But when you don't have ill will anymore, you know the last thing you're interested in doing is causing harm to this other person. And now you're being loving and kind in all these situations, and you'll see your relationships will be at ease. They'll be blossoming. You'll notice that it's effortless for you to make new friends by the time you get rid of your ill will. That you can easily talk with anybody and everybody in the world. You don't have this wall between you and other people any longer. It'll be really easy for you to interact with people because the ill will is like a wall. Like if you're experiencing a certain situation and you notice your anger is arising, you might push this person away and erect a wall between you and them. And now you're unwilling to break that wall down. But when you get rid of your ill will, you will break that wall down, and now it's so easy for you to make friends and maintain your relationships, and it'll be satisfying and fulfilling. But when you have sensual desire in your mind, your relationships aren't going to be satisfying and fulfilling because there's always something you want that you don't have. But when you get rid of your sensual desire and ill will, all your relationships can be fulfilling because you don't have any expectations of people. You don't want anything from them. But when you have sensual desire and ill will, that's not the case. So when you get rid of this, it'll be so easy for you to make friends because you don't want anything from these people. So do you guys have any questions that you guys would like to ask? Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I have two things. So for one thing, it's about like you said, without those ill will, you will love like everyone in the world, you will be peaceful to them. So my point is, what I do is I do not hate them, but I am indifferent to them. For example, those are people who hurt animals, people who kill like homeless cats and dogs, who eat cats and dogs. I feel like I cannot like them. Yeah, because it's against my desire, you know. I realize that it's normal, like for people to be different. I should love the world as it is. I accept the differences of different people. Some people hate animals. Some people are cruel. Some people are brutal. That's fine. Just I can't love them.
Yeah, that's because of your sensual desire and your ill will. Because you want them to be a certain way, and they're not that way. So you need to get to the point where you're not looking down on them or judging them or thinking of them as good or bad or like them or dislike them based on the choices that they make. You need to separate the choices and decisions that someone makes from the person themselves, where you can love the person while disagreeing with their choices and decisions. So you disagree with their choice and decision to kill animals and eat animals, but you can love the person. What love means is have a genuine interest in seeing them be well. And you're not judging them for the things that they're doing. You don't have to help them to be well because hoping and wishing is more of like a craving, desire, attachment, where you would just like to have a genuine interest in seeing them be well, but understand that they are responsible for their own wellness. So like if somebody, even though my mom's not alive anymore, if someone murdered my mom, I can still love them. I can disagree with their choices and decisions, that they made an unwise choice, in my opinion, to murder this person. But I can still love the person, meaning I would like to see them be well. And part of them being well is they need to go to jail. They need to have some programming. They need to experience the consequences of their decisions. But me being angry and frustrated and agitated and annoyed doesn't produce any beneficial result. So those people that you know of that kill animals or harm, animals, the dislike that you have in your mind towards them isn't helping you. It's only hindering you. So get to the point where you disagree with their choices and decisions and understand that that's not how you choose to make decisions, but you can love them as a person, meaning you would like to see them be well. Mm-hmm. Your mic's not turned on. Your mic's not turned on, so the people can't hear you. And I can just barely hear you. Yeah.
It's fine. So I made a mistake, and my father judged me as stupid and foolish, and he scolded me and condemned me like very strongly. He said, well, why don't you go die like this? So I knew he was angry and he was disappointed about what I did. I didn't do something as he expected. So he has a sensual desire to me. So
all these batteries are dying because we're 3 days into the retreat. There's charged batteries inside this cabinet that I've charged them all up. They need to be replaced when there's a long retreat like this, like probably every 3 days or so.
So he was angry because I didn't, because he has like sensual desire for me. He wants me to be like clever or wise or whatever. But I know that I should apologize for what I did. But still, at that time, I feel really upset, frustrated because my desire that my father should trust me, he should have positive attitude towards me, like drag me down. Make me feel very frustrated. So in that way, how should I get rid of those painful feelings?
Okay.
In that case.
So just understand that your dad is making the decisions that he thinks is best. But with his lack of understanding of these teachings, he's going to make some decisions that are maybe could be considered unwise in some situations. But if you get rid of your craving and expectation for your dad to be a certain way, then you'll get free of any anger and hostility. So you're going to need to have loving kindness meditation for your dad. You're going to need to learn what that meditation is and put your dad in there. You're going to need to practice generosity with your dad if you still have a contact with him. You're going to need to do reflection on death for your dad. So these are all things that you do after you get your Eightfold Path up and running, because you just recently started learning with me. So you're going to need to focus on that first. But then these are things that you do once you get those things, and that'll really target this. But if you don't have the Eightfold Path well underway, it doesn't make sense to really talk about these other things too much. So really focus on the Eightfold Path first.
PDF.
Yeah,
it's on PDF.
Yeah, you can get the book, you can watch the videos, listen to the podcast, you can talk to me in personal guidance sessions, you can take other classes and courses and retreats, and you'll be able to learn the Eightfold Path. Okay. It takes me about 2.5 hours to teach it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, so we have a question here from Alejandro. How do you recommend to avoid judgments when you see that in other people? For example, some people don't take healthy decisions or exercise, etc. You need to be able to get rid of the conceit and the arrogance, thinking that what I do is right and what other people do is wrong. So if you exercise or you eat healthy, what you consider to be healthy, don't expect other people to do that too. That's the craving for permanence that the mind has. And that's also the conceit that what I do is right and what other people do is wrong. Just look at it as these are the decisions that you're making and they work for you. And that's what you're choosing to do. But don't have the craving or expectation that other people will do those same things. And that's where training your mind to be restrained is going to help you, because where you see that bubbling up in your mind where you're getting ready to judge somebody, you would like to cut that off and let it go. When you're starting to become bitter and harsh and hostile, you got to cut that off and let it go. Don't allow the mind to do that. Just understand that these are the choices you're making, but not everybody's going to make those same choices. And that's just impermanence. That's all it is. So just be comfortable with that impermanence. Question? We're going to need to finish up here soon because they usually lock the front gate at 9 o'clock. And I didn't tell the monk that I was going to be here until later.
Yeah, I have just one question. I used the translator. So
they're all dying.
It's okay. What's the point?
You can say it. I'll repeat it. Mhm.
Usually people become friends because they have some common interest that connects. And most often it's a fickle interest.
Mhm.
But how do you know that the person is making friends out of loving kindness without any expectations rather than their cravings?
Okay, so for those of you guys online, the question was, why would you make friends? I'll summarize it. Why would you make friends with somebody if you don't want anything from them, right? So you need to get to the point where you don't want anything from anybody, because as long as you have want and longing, yearning, and expectations, your mind's still attached. You're still dependent on this person for something, right? You're wanting something from this person, and you can only be happy when you get what you want. So you need to learn how to have relationships without wanting anything. Just you enjoy spending time with other people and learning about different cultures, different languages, different opinions, different views, and you enjoy that. And it's just something you enjoy to spend time with other people and socialize, but you don't want anything from them. You don't expect anything from them. And this is new. A lot of times people have never been in a relationship where they didn't want something from somebody, or somebody didn't want something from you, right? So sometimes one of the first relationships that you have where somebody doesn't want something from you is your Buddhist teacher. Like, I don't want anything from you. I don't expect anything from you. I'm here to help you, but I don't want anything from you, right? So people need to be able to experience what that's like and see that there's no discontentedness in order for them to then be able to replicate that in other parts of their life. So you can choose to have relationships because you enjoy spending time with people and having conversation with them, but you don't want anything from them. Therefore, your emotions and your feelings aren't dependent on this person, whether they're in your life or not. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think I'm going to end class here. So I apologize for all of you guys online that showed up and maybe were interested in learning chanting and practicing chanting and doing loving kindness meditation, because that was the plan. But because of impermanence, that didn't happen. So thank you for understanding. We're just wrapping up a retreat here that was supposed to finish it about an hour ago, so that I could teach you guys, but that didn't happen. So thank you for understanding. Tomorrow in our retreat here, I'm going to be moving on and teaching you guys in the morning loving kindness meditation, because you need this in order to get rid of your ill will. So I'm going to teach that to you, and then I'm going to actually do it with you. Then I'm going to teach you these two fetters: desire for form, desire for formless. Then I'm going to teach you about conceit and what that is, the symptoms of it, how to eliminate it, and how to know that you've actually eliminated it. That's dissolving the ego. And then after lunch, in the evening, we're going to do loving kindness meditation together. And then after loving kindness meditation, I'm going to teach you about this fetter of restlessness. That's the overactivity in the mind. I'm going to teach you how to calm the mind. I'm going to explain to you what restlessness is, the symptoms of it, how to eliminate it, how to know that you've actually eliminated it. So enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you for the wonderful discussion. And perhaps I'll see you guys in a future class. Okay? Sawadee Kap.